Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly. This is episode 74. My name is Mauricio, and I'll hand it off to Indian Sir.
Welcome, everybody. We're so excited. It's a double flyover week. Hooray! Go, Mauricio. Thomas, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. It's going to be exciting. There's a lot to go through. We're going to do it pretty quickly. Zach, hand it off to you, and welcome back.
All right. Well, thanks for having me back. I'm finally up and running again to some degree. Was able to get a new laptop over the last week after my previous one crashed. So thank you to everybody who helped out with that, those donations. That was really amazing to have so much support from, the Team Space community. So shout out to everybody who donated. And yeah, on that note, I am partially set up, not really so much so for the RGV streams, but with that being said, it's not going to be quite as smooth as it normally is as far as like transitions between images. So just bear with me in that regard, but hopefully it shouldn't be too bad as I'm still trying to figure a few things out. So
by the way, you said it crashed and burned. Was it more like a 724 crash and burn, like successful and high, but something happened bad, or what happened there?
It was a combination of issues. One with the solid state drive, and then also the motherboard. So, it's literally still at Micro Center right now. So, every time they tell me they're going to have an answer on it, they take another 2 days to call me and then tell me that they're going to have an answer soon. So, yeah, still waiting to find out what the final word on it is, even though they are telling me that the motherboard's fried. So, yeah. Good riddance to that one.
Well, this one looks pretty crisp and clean so far. And we've got a lot of pictures to go through, so let's jump in.
Yeah, awesome. And we're going to start out at Massey's as always this week because we got some awesome new updates out there. It's really kind of crazy how much work is going on at Starbase right now. It kind of seems like 2021 all over again, where every flyover there was just massive amounts of changes. So it's really awesome to be back in that that feeling, I guess you could say. And with that being said, I mean, we got some pretty awesome updates for Massey's. I think it looks like we may be preparing to start seeing boosters here.
Oh yeah, I love that new cryo station. Like we knew it existed already for the rebars and the piles, and it was buried. And if you kind of zoom in a little bit more on that bottom left corner, there's this red area. You can actually see that was the original one that was sticking up higher than the rest. You can see it in the previous flyover photos. That was their like guide to figure out where everything is at. And you can even see a tripod right there for survey equipment to say, okay, well, we've got this location. We know this one. And we now can go through and use this and this other marker somewhere else to identify where to dig and not to dig so that they don't break things.
Yeah, this is really interesting. You know, I'm kind of curious if this is in fact going to be for boosters or if they may put this stand over there. Because right now they don't have any anything underneath this one as far as like all the pilings and whatnot. It's basically just sitting on top of a regular concrete slab. So I'm wondering if they may sit this on top of there or if it will in fact be a either a booster or another ship cryo station.
Well, that's a really good question because you're right. If you're using a puck shucker like this is, you need a lot of support underneath. You could basically put a booster or I'm sorry, a starship on top, but you can't cryo it at the same time that you're trying to do the puck shucking, which is kind of a requirement. You're testing out all the stresses, or basically flight stresses, using the hydraulic rams underneath to test all that out. And you really can't with this current system. You have to have pads like those underneath. So that's a really good point. We've always assumed that it was going to be a booster cryo pad, simply because that's what they have over at the launch site.
Right. And you know, the interesting thing about that is, I mean, just seeing this is sitting on top of some pipe stands still. So, I mean, this is not its final resting position as far as what it looks like. But it's interesting that these pads on here. Okay, I take back what I was going to say. I was going to say it looks like this is made almost for a transport stand to sit on top of it, but I realize these are actually the ship stage separation clamps. So take that back. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's still weird. You know, having this here at all, just because of the fact that it requires a crane to lift the ship on top of this. So, yeah, I'm kind of wondering how they're gonna do that.
Now I'm thinking we've got this potentially being that new cryo, or basically cryo stand that would be test stand B or D. I'm sorry, as in Delta. Where would the booster pad be? Because that's something that is still kind of a requirement, and we've got a lot of boosters that need testing right now without a fully functional fuel farm to do it yet.
Yeah, and you know, I'm wondering if it's necessary to have a booster cryo station here, just because they technically have one at the launch site. Um, and while you know, it would make sense to have one here just so you don't have to interrupt operations at the launch site. I almost still have a hard time believing that they would transport boosters up this road. I mean, we know that they would have planned to do it in the future anyways if they're going to send stuff down to KSC, but I don't know. I just don't think the road is in condition to be moving boosters here yet. But I guess we'll see soon if that's going to be the case or not. But this does, the reinforcements on this do look different than what they did on this one, right? I don't know if I have a older image to pull up right now.
I'll see if I can grab one for you here. But if you want to go back down and look at the concrete pad itself, it's been extended quite a bit. So if that one, and you just keep going down at pretty much to the entrance of Massey's, that's where it's headed. So while we're talking about booster pads and all of that, I'm kind of thinking, well, you could transport it for sure. I mean, they do ships right now with just the dirt road. What happens if you kind of widen it a little bit and put in concrete on top so it's reinforced a bit, especially over that bridge? You should be able to go through and transport boosters as well.
Yeah, do you think they'll run this concrete all the way down to the to Highway 4?
I'm not sure about Highway 4 up to the edge of this area, because technically that right there would be their property, but then their property also kind of extends a little bit on that road to the location down here. It's like an easement. So they could be able to get a driveway basically to that location. The rest of it would be basically this road right here you're talking about. That one's a little bit more interesting because that's going to be pretty much all county at that point.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the way they do that, because I mean, do they not own this road as well?
No, so they've got access rights to the road, but they do not own that property. So they own basically that property up to the fence line and have an easement directly through to that other side, and then pretty much I think it's another easement for the rest of it all the way through to Highway 4. But it might be the same easement on both. But the interesting part is, if you're looking at putting in blacktop or concrete or whatever, you'd have to go through the county basically to get that approved, or say, yes, we'd like to have a large driveway that's going to be about a mile long.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely interesting to see that progress down here either way. I mean, it's and I was actually in the background trying to pull up an older image, or not an older image, but one from last week, or Sunday, sorry, because it will be interesting to show. I was just thinking about this B6.1 test. Let's see. Hold on, let me pull up one of the older images.
Yeah, and the B6.1 test was incredible. So we saw the test itself go through the basically FTS equivalent of trying to test a tank to its limits with the actual FTS itself to make sure it would basically explode and implode at the same time in the correct manner. This one was successful, and a little bit more successful than I think they were anticipating, especially with that HESCO barrier. They exceeded the limits of the HESCO barrier. So it's supposed to reduce the amount of splash damage, so to speak. There's a box pretty much, if you look at the HESCO barrier, how it curves in, it's that second one. It's kind of it's on this side.
Oh. Yeah,
so it's the second one in where it starts to curve. So it's on the kind of the middle.
See if I can see it.
Yeah, so you can see it there. Just to the right of your mouse, right there. Just down a little bit.
Uh-huh. Right
and then up to the right. Right there. That is a box, or boxes that are control boxes that they just installed like 2 days before they blew this thing up. And it just completely just caved over the HESCO barriers, and those little utility boxes are all that's kind of holding up some of the soil. So
this one kind of confused me a little bit, because I don't understand why they put the FTS on this side. Well,
they technically the FTS was faced towards this direction, but the FTS on the tank itself, I'm sorry, this is this just after it. So there's another photo later when they remove the rest of the pieces that you can see a little bit more damage and curvature.
From the yesterday's flyover?
Yeah. So there's a little bit more curvature you can spot with it. But the reason they did it in that direction was there's 3 cameras pointed at the side from that direction. You did actually see some debris fly off. But yeah, if you look at the very left-hand side of that piece right there, because they basically pushed it over the rest of the way, and you go up on it's the top left most position, right where your mouse is at, just down a little bit. That was basically where the FTS was at. It burst it directly in on that side. One other issue, though, is we are seeing some damage from the excavator itself, but that left-hand side basically is where the FTS charge decided to, do a little bit of damage. And then the whole thing did collapse right in on itself, which is exactly what you would expect for a flight termination system. But what's really cool, looking at the Rocket Ranch video, you can see that the explosion itself travels downwards. And what also travels
We have
downwards,
that in live comms.
I can grab it for you here in just a quick sec. But yeah, that explosion itself, it basically had like 3 to 6 feet that it travels down. And I'm putting it in live comms right now. So the coolest part, if you just like zoom in on it, if you can do that while playing the video.
I don't know. I haven't done this yet. We'll see how this works out.
But yeah, if you can also do slow-mo, either of those works. If you could do both at the same time, that's even the best. But basically, you could see the FTS charge going off. It travels downwards as it's going off. And the other thing that does pretty much that exact same thing, and Elon basically quipped about this or had a Freudian slip, which is detonation cord. So detonation cord will do the exact same thing.
I think we're going to want to play this with the audio, right?
Audio is really good. Yeah.
Yeah, let's
So the fact that he says detonation cord like twice, and it is a type of plastic explosive, that's something you would use, but this one's a little bit more interesting because it does travel in that downwards direction as it goes off. But it's like only just like 3 to 6 feet, and you have to do it like frame by frame. You're looking at this bright spot in the very center, traveling down over the frame. So yeah, you have to basically scrub through it really slow.
This is, and then it's on the far left of the screen if you guys haven't seen this yet. But right here is the moment of detonation, which is very bright. And you can actually, I really liked this version because if you look at the at ship 25 over here, you can see the flash.
Yeah.
On everything over here.
Cheese. But yeah, the splash afterwards, it was just incredible.
Amazing. I think that's topping the HESCO barrier, right?
Yeah, it's going beyond the HESCO barrier, but the HESCO barrier did its job. It's just it didn't do it as well enough. They needed another HESCO barrier probably in between just to keep it flowing even less. Ooh,
right.
I did see something of a zoom. Was that it?
I just got out of it. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not going to be very smooth with these transitions today, so yeah.
Oh, you closed off our view.
I'm sorry about that.
But yeah, we're still going. We're good. So yeah, I just need to get us back here.
There we go. Sorry, Indian Star. Hopefully that didn't mess you up too bad there.
Nope, we just went closed for a little while, but we're back. Thank you.
All right. Well, there we go.
But yeah, so the area just to the right, as I mentioned, there's that like red pole. It is one of like 2 locations.
You're talking about
right
this?
There. Yeah, right there. And then further up next to that little yellow box to the right, those were the high-speed cameras that captured the event. So just right to that.
Oh my gosh. I wish they would. This?
No. It was a pole.
Oh,
just
on
that
this
tiny,
pole?
this tiny little pole. They removed the cameras afterwards because it's like, these are really nice cameras. We don't want them sitting around where excavators will just roll over the thing.
I would love to see that high-speed footage. I mean, maybe they're just still processing it and they'll show it to us soon.
Can you actually go to the left a little bit? I'm seeing those HESCO barriers. They have 3 layers here. Yeah, and it looks like they actually have another layer or 2 on the left-hand side, I just noticed. So even though they had quite a few, it ramps up. It should have probably been a solid wall on this side, or on the side that was splashing towards it.
Right.
And then the other way, because right now this direction,
around.
Yeah, it's ramping it up, and you don't want it to ramp up.
Yeah, I don't know if the goal was to just like add stabilization here, but I guess if it was, then they should have, like you said, put it on the backside.
I'm just thinking of a seawall. You do the opposite. You put the backing behind it, not in front of it. Right. Because that's basically what you're making is a seawall.
Hey, Zach, real quick interruption. Apparently the aspect ratio on YouTube, it displayed the Rocket Ranch video, but the explosion was off frame, even though it was on frame on our end. So is there any way we can enter that so we can have that in the center of the screen?
All right, let me try that again.
I have an idea that just might work.
What are you thinking?
It's fixed
If
now.
you,
It'll work just fine.
well, I've got two things I can do.
The only reason it didn't work was because initially we had black bars, so I had enlarged the screen so that we didn't have black bars. It's fixed now.
Okay. So I'm gonna make sure that we can see it now. Are we good?
Well, we could also do a zoom in, if you'd like. I'm going to share my screen so that we'll switch over for just a moment, because I can do this as well here with it's basically slow-mo and audio and all the good jazz here. So I need to start. Let me know when you've got that.
We're ready whenever you are.
Awesome. Okay, see it?
All I saw were pictures moving.
You don't see? You see what? Okay. Hold on.
I see it on your stream, Thomas.
Okay.
Are we looking at Thomas's screen? Is that why?
Yeah. So if you can share my screen right there.
2 seconds. We are sharing your screen, my friend. Go for it.
All right. So here we go. This is with audio and it's zoomed in. Incredible. And then I'm going to do slow-mo now. So let's do 1/8 speed here, and I'll move it forward until I see the explosion. But this is where pixel counting really comes into play once you get to the point where you're looking at stuff like this. So you can see the explosion right here. Next frame, it travels down, and you're kind of looking for the center area of the explosion. And then the next one travels down further. And then the last frame, it's pretty much at the bottom, and then it's gone after that.
Hey Zach, we don't see the video word for the explosion.
No, they do. They just need to wait a second because the first one we didn't catch because I didn't realize we were on Thomas's screen. We're good.
So you got it now?
We've seen every single one from the moment I said you're good to go.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that was it, the transition, and it's all zoomed in, and that's nice. Is there anything else we wanted to do with this video? Otherwise, we could switch back to Zach here. Are we good? Need starting. Want to switch back to Zach? And Zach, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Thomas. Like I said, I'm still getting properly set up over here. So hopefully next week I'll be able to swap back and forth between things a little bit smoother. But yeah, if we're back on my screen, then
we are.
Cool. So yeah, what else have we got new over here? Or did you have anything else you want to add on this?
They got a swamp now.
Yeah, that was a massive amount of water. I mean, this really wasn't, I guess, large enough to hold everything, right? Like it. I don't know if this was intended to be like a third layer.
Well, that was just what had collected from rainwater and everything else. But the stuff pretty much in the blue-green area.
Rainwater?
Yeah, that's just rainwater and mud pretty much. That it's not directly from the test. There might be some in there, but it's mostly rainwater and everything else.
Really?
Yeah. It's always kind of muddy back there, and it's been getting pretty bad over the past few weeks.
That's a lot of water.
Yeah, it is. It is absolutely a lot of water. They even have it trenched. So if you look down, they've got a little area that it collects, and it's supposed to go to the far back area. So yeah, you can see down there. Like this is where water runoff is supposed to go, but it just kind of collects over there instead of going to the Rio Grande, because I guess they're just like, well, we can't dump it, but we would like to get it away from everything else. And this is the only place they can do it. If you go down further, we can talk a little bit about some other things that are interesting. Some really big moves happening. It's probably related to that new cryo stand on the left-hand side. We have those 4 brand new embeds with basically for 3 tanks. So you basically put a tank in between each of those. And so you have 4 for 3. That's kind of an interesting way to do it. But they do the exact same thing on those 3 tanks to the left. So we're expecting to see some more just below that, down below on the, pretty much in that area. And the interesting part is like everything else fits, Well, why don't we just go ahead and use the current tanks that are up at the top of Sanchez or Massey's here? So those 3, I mean, they're the same size. Why not use those? And they've been sitting there. They need a new home. And then the other part is you see there's a vaporizer just at the bottom of your screen there. And well, not that one, but that was one of the 2, and that spherical tank. We were saying it was going to go there, and
they got another one.
Yeah, they got 2 spherical tanks now.
Wow. That's really interesting. So the vaporizers are primarily, do you think, for like pre-press?
Yeah, pre-press, but it's also just gasifying liquid nitrogen. So these are liquid nitrogen tanks, and so they're taking a lot of liquid nitrogen. Probably either the tanks themselves are either liquid nitrogen or they are gas. One of the 2.
Oh, yeah. So when you're pumping the nitrogen, or sorry, your nitrogen out of here, you have to also be vaporizing some of it and backfilling it.
Yeah, so you're going to be doing some interesting pressurization things like that. The canisters to the right, those are definitely gas. Just to the right of the vaporizers. So they're not canisters; they're cylinders. So I keep using the word canister, and that's not the correct term, but it's cylinder would be the correct industry term for basically tanks like those.
Interesting. I didn't really expect to see these tanks go here, mainly because of how close they are to the test stand area right here. But that's going to be really interesting.
It's got a good distance, and they're putting a new, looks like concrete pad in right next to it. So they'll be able to still keep activity going. As long as you're not crushing whatever you're working with or cryoing and crushing it, you should be fine for the most part. And even if you are, it usually doesn't go too far.
Right.
The real problem though is if something does break.
Do you think they'll put one additional one over here for the 3rd tank, or because I did definitely expect these tanks to go to the launch site, but I mean it's pretty clear now that that's not going to be the case. I mean, well, the one thing I would say on that is that these the pads for these right here, I think they were rectangular and they weren't like didn't look like this, like they were solid.
Well, so they kind of looked like this, but they had the other feature, which was that the tanks themselves were basically placed in such a way that it would work on the 2 center ones. There was something a little bit different about those. So there could be the chance that they decide in order to just fit 2 tanks. So that's going to be interesting. You're going to have to figure out, like, looking at the center tank, if they change the way that it's held up, if it's going to be held up for those 2 center parts, or is it just 2 tanks? That could be the other way around.
Yeah, and this cryo tubing right here was not here before, right?
The tubing and the pipe racks are all brand new.
Okay. Well, that is pretty clear. I would say that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, the rest of it actually it's headed over directly to the far right for the tubing. So if you keep scrolling over, you can see there's more pipe racks and more pipe. It's all headed that direction. And then we noticed something else really interesting. Just scroll down a little bit. Nose cone 31, the 26th or 7th, I believe. It was, I think, the 27th. They had basically a fire here. You could kind of see the stuff to the left where that happened. But the really interesting part is there is a line just below your mouse going over to the left. So they were pressurizing it when they were doing that whole nose cone press, where they basically pull down on the top of the nose cone and they just removed the top. You can see that it's sitting off to the far right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there. So that's really exciting because they've they pressed it and they pulled the nose cone down and basically did a max Q test and basically did a structural test to failure in order to get that data. If it was intended or not, that's still up to them to tell us, but it's still good news, and a lot of results will be basically going through and changing or saying, oh yeah, we just we can thin down materials if we need to or whatever. They now have those parameters. They never failed the nose cone on, let's say, Ship 24 when it was in flight through the Max Q regime. So hypersonic areas, they're not really having any issues there. At least we didn't see anything there. So this will actually give more test data that didn't provide.
You know, it's super annoying that I'm gonna have to figure out this little thing that keeps popping up down here.
Can you move it at all? Just drag and drop it somewhere?
Nope. I'm gonna work on getting a different photo viewer. This is like the first one I've tried. The preview photo viewer on Max is garbage in my opinion. But yeah, enough on that. Wow. So I think we have some ground images of this as well too, but I don't know if it's worth looking at it.
It's nice and crushed, that's for sure.
Does it look the same as it was before?
Just the nose removed, but otherwise it's the same. It's just crushed and its heart has been broken, so to speak.
I mean, even though it's crushed, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, but it's just scrap at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And we also have this is
26.1.
Yeah. We haven't seen anything change on this, right? Though it looks like they're in there working right now.
Yeah, so they've done 3 crowd tests on this so far. And the fact that they've opened up the manhole again, it kind of indicates that they're still interested about changes or whatever dynamics are at play on the inside. They might be testing it to some sort of failure point. We don't know. Because it's basically got a Starship puck. The skirt section itself is a lot shorter because this isn't really meant for that. But it is really unusual and very interesting because they're putting those little triangle pieces at the bottom. It kind of indicates you're really pushing up on those thrust rams to probably such a degree that you really need those. And so we're probably looking at basically Max Q, or not Max Q, but version 3 forces. So version 3 Raptor forces or something. It's like, yeah, let's go to 270 tons each and see how the puck handles.
That is a very good point. I wonder if we should expect them to redo, because this is just the ship aft section, right? So like, I wonder if we should expect them to redo booster puck testing with that in mind.
I would kind of assume so, but the thing is that you've already had that thought probably back in 2016. They wanted to find out, or not find out. They wanted to basically be the goal of 300 metric tons per Raptor. You can do that right now with any hydraulic ram that they can purchase and set it up to test it to that limit or even more. Because one other extreme amount of thrust that you will typically have on some of these rockets, especially the newer ones, that are very prototype-ish and like to explode as the engines themselves. If they explode, you can have that force going up into the Raptor that's exceeding the 200 or 300 or whatever tons at that moment of explosion. So you got to see if that can affect the puck itself. So, just testing up to those higher limits, those peak limits, to see where the failure is at and confirm between a Raptor or a Raptor explosion or just a normal thrust of a Raptor that's the version 3, version 4, whatever it may be, that the puck will survive.
Right. Yeah, I mean, so you think that when they originally did that testing that they probably exceeded Raptor 2 inputs, or like basically test it for the future so that they how do I say this? Basically testing it past what it would experience with Raptor 2, and potentially all the way up to like Raptor 4 when they did that, like just so that they don't have to repeat it in the future. I mean, the thrust pucks are basically the same, right? So I wonder if it's possible that they already know that it will work, or also, I guess, if they haven't done that test, I wonder if it may require an upgraded thrust puck in order to support those more powerful Raptor engines.
Well, this is kind of the idea is that they would be potentially testing to that limit. They've now finally got up to that 269 metric tons of thrust, which is a rounding error to 270. But the amazing part is Like they're getting that high up there. The original goal was 300. You might not have testing that says, oh yeah, we need to exceed the limits of what this was built for. Because it would basically destroy the puck, potentially the stand that's testing it. This is a pretty beefy testing apparatus for the can crusher, so it's able to take some hits, so to speak, and be replaced as far as panels go if something really breaks bad. But it would probably be basically a puck shucker in this case. So if it shucks the puck like SN1, it's not going anywhere. It's being held down by the skirt at 20 different points times 3. So 60 points that's being held down by. So yeah, it's just an interesting one.
Aerial image of that. Sorry, I have to scroll through. I'm going to do this a different way.
You're giving away all the fun stuff.
Yeah. Next week will be much better. I'm got some experimenting to do throughout the week. Yeah. So what else do we have over here at Massey's?
So there's not much else over on the left-hand side. Just go up to the right. I think that was about it. They've been leveling out the soils a bit. So for the latest flyovers here, you can see the soil on the left-hand side. They've been
over
just
where?
Left. Sorry, in the little bit more left, right there. Yeah, they've been leveling out that area a little bit. Other than that, there's not much else.
The latest flyover right here.
This is the 20th.
Yes, sorry. Okay, sorry. I thought I was looking at the wrong thing.
So yeah, this is just yesterday. I don't know if Mauricio flew this morning.
Well, here's another interesting thing I noticed. They got a bunch of equipment out here which hasn't been here before. I have no idea what these are.
Looks like hydraulic rams right there.
Oh yeah, okay.
You've got flex lines, cryo pipes. You've got high pressure gas cylinders to the top left. And then you've got the load spread tester for the can crusher on the very far left next to the tent. So it's the apparatus to go further left on the tent. It's hard to see your mouse. So just next to the tent, there's a gray piece. That's a long gray piece.
Where?
Up at the top next to the canisters. Yeah. So that piece right there is for a load cell tester. So you basically push up on each hydraulic ram. This basically goes through and helps test the hydraulic rams on the can crusher, and you basically do it 10 times in order to verify each side of the load cell, or each side of the hydraulic rams with the load cell system here.
Interesting. So similar to the way they did it on the launch mount, but
yeah,
just different, like on top instead of hanging between them or something like that.
Yeah, and then there's another piece that goes with it that you can test individually. It's that aqua blue colored piece just to the right.
This
right there, yeah.
This is I think this is for lifting the pistons into the can crusher.
This one's specific purpose is also to be a load cell tester. If you go down, they've got another one just like that. But it's going to be at the new puck shucker for the ship. Oh, it's right in the clouds a little bit, but you can see it. It's that little thing that on the right looks like pants.
Oh, right here.
Yeah, right there. So again, it's the same type of system. You basically put the load cell in the very top center. It's either for pushing up or pulling down. I think this one's for pushing up.
Interesting.
And I've seen some nice embeds for Ship 25's cryo station that haven't seen that for a little while now.
And on that note, yeah, we should also mention that Ship 25 finally moved out of Massey's, and it took forever for them to get it to the launch site. In particular, let me go over here. It seemed that they were driving up and down this road, like back and forth, like multiple times as they were trying to move it. And then they actually ended up canceling the move the first night. I don't remember the date that was supposed to be, but yeah, they
16th, 17th through 18th.
Right. Yeah, it looked like they were having some issues trying to get it on the highway. I know there was some speculation that it wouldn't move on the highway just because of how bad it looks right now, but yeah, I mean, with the self-leveling of the SPMTs, it looks like it didn't do too bad getting there.
You just have to wonder what the highway looks like after it's been through there.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm actually curious to know that. Specifically in the really bad area right before the construction. Oh wow, I just noticed all these trucks lined up over here.
Yeah, it looks like they're got some fill dirt that they're either dropping off or bringing in.
Oh, over here, like taking this away.
Yeah, probably they're to pick it up.
Oh, here's one getting
filled
right there. Wow, that's quite the convoy. Sorry, that was like a shiny object for me right there, even though they're not that shiny. Cool. Well, shall we move over to Sanchez? I think we have some questions possibly from Massey's and potentially donations. I don't know. Indy?
Definitely questions. And one donation. Actually, 2 donations. We have a $5 donation from Captain Fish, and we also have a $10 donation from Crane Man, who says, for all the hard work from Team Space. And then
thank you, Captain Fish and Crane Man.
And then as far as the questions are concerned, Mark asks, what are all the activities that have taken place at Massey's?
3, at least most recently, 3 cryo tests of 26.1. The nose cone test, they've tested 7.1 with cryo. They did ship 25. Was it 2 or 3 times for cryo? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that jumps out at me that we've had tested, but it's kind of the large assortments of tests so far.
Nice.
I saw somebody ask me if I can make this mouse pointer a little easier to see, and I'm going to try that in the background, but I don't. And then don't get your hopes
up. We actually have a lot of gifted memberships. Very generous people in chat, as always. Cliff donated a donation. I'm sorry, Cliff actually became a new RGV flight supporter. Welcome to the team, Cliff. Jim Cavett donated a gift membership to Zaphod. Jonas donated 5 gift memberships to Forge Gamer, Ben Klein, Starship, Cameron, and Gecko194. T. Evans NC donated twice. One went to Jonathan Denmark, and the other one went to Flipper. And then Jacques donated a gift membership, and I didn't see who it went to, but congratulations to the person who it went to, and I will find out who you are in a moment.
Wow, that's huge. Donations are pretty big as far as gift memberships like that. So just for everybody who's kind of listening in, gift memberships, you basically get access to all of the ground photos, every single one. Mauricio takes 450 of these ground photos sometimes. And then you get the aerial shots each time, like SN1. Oh, that looks nice.
We're going as large as possible since Crane Man was complaining. Here we go. We'll see if this works out for y'all. Sorry, Thomas, go ahead.
No. That looks like a really nice mouse. So you don't get any mice with your memberships, but you do get access to Show and Tell, which is on Discord. So you want to basically grab a Discord account. It's really cool because you can chat directly with us, ask questions, and we go through every single picture pretty much to just uncover everything. So that's highly recommended to access your Discord benefits in order to access Show and Tell. And we put out a notice that it's going to be occurring. Sometimes what time Mauricio goes through and says we're going to do a Show Tell at 9:00 or usually it's around about 5 or 6 Central Time. Last night was a pretty long one and went up to midnight. But it started out at 9. So anyways, it's really fun. You should definitely jump in if you haven't. Any other questions, or shall we jump to Sanchez?
Actually, we have a really big donation from Michael Z, who donated $200 through PayPal. Thank you so much, Michael Z.
Wow. Super generous. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's incredible. It helps support everything we do here, especially these flyovers. So everything from Patreon to everything else we do here helps support the flyovers. And we've had 2 this week. So it does put some expenses on Mauricio. I think he was going a little bit out of pocket for the flyover this week, so that I think definitely helps. All right. There's a lot of action happening over at Sanchez.
Yeah.
So left to right, United Rentals moved out big time. And looks like the GSE fabrication team have moved in, at least at the shipping container castle that they've got over there. That's all GSE guys. So you can see pipe, not pipe, but square tubing that's curved just to the bottom right. So go down a little bit further right there. That's for building new stands for like transport stands. And they've been building
They
those
won't be
like
using
crazy.
those because all the new ones, they had a bunch of new ones and they were all black. And like, I feel like they've had these for a long time.
They're using up all of that material. So even we'll get to a little bit later, but even up for next to the GSE building, they were using these to build as many as they possibly could outdoors instead of building it inside. But we'll get to that later. This entire area, we've got a new piece of equipment. It's like got 5
really
legs on it, just to the right.
No, I just wanted to check and see if the transport stand both transport stands have these on there, because
these are for the transport stand from Florida.
But both transport stands over here have clamps on them already.
It has the pieces for it. So this is for the newest transport stand, the one that's very far left. It's the naked one that came from Florida.
Oh, I'm missing that one. Where is it?
It's far left, which it's not on this image, but you could probably see it above the tent on the left side, right there. Yeah, zoom in there, you can see it, so everybody else can get a nice little glimpse. So yeah, that's a naked booster transport stand. They sent that from Florida with a bunch of other goodies, but they still haven't used this one yet. It's ready to be used, but they haven't had a need quite yet. That might be changing in the next couple of months.
Yeah, for some reason I thought they already did that one, so ignore me on that. But yeah, this is actually looking a lot like it used to look over here, other than this little corner. I mean, they are typically used to like storing stuff along this edge right here, so it's kind of looking like it used to as well. I mean, I'm wondering if this will end up being where all of the, all the steel gets dropped off for the Mega Bay.
It is partly. It's filling in. All the white stuff is Mega Bay steel. That's Mega Bay steel just to the right as well.
Star Factory?
No, this would be Mega Bay. So they've got gray and white pieces for Mega Bay. So they've got like gray cladding and some other things. If you go down, there's a bunch of stuff as well over there. That's all Mega Bay. It's all white. Then there's that black S pipe. That actually is supposed to go up with the water deluge system for those steel plates. That was part of it. And then they got it sent over here. You can even see the gray T for the water deluge system. So it just kind of, everything got shifted over because they need to make a lot of room for a bunch of things.
Yeah, whoever does like these guys right here have tons of job security, because they're just constantly putting stuff down in one location and then moving it to another. It's like a never-ending job redoing inventory out here.
Yeah, I've seen them move around objects 3 times in this week over the past several days. It's like, wait, it's the same objects. You just keep moving it around. And they're doing that to get access to other things just behind it. It's always in the way.
I would really love to see how they track all this stuff.
I think it's got lot numbers or something, and hopefully it's got an image. I've seen people take cell phone shots of things as well, workers.
Here's where it is.
Yeah, here's where it is. Exactly. It's like, that's where I placed it. What's really interesting, though, is in the top left corner, those little black pieces just right underneath your mouse. Those triangle pieces, those are basically A-framed tooling racks. So you put all sorts of accessories and other little things on it. Those are from tents 1 or 2. So what are they doing over here? And the interesting part is I've seen these elsewhere around the site. But they're supposed to be in the tents 1 and 2. So either they found a better way of putting tools on areas or something along those lines, or some other things have just changed. I think there's a wiring harness built into to one of them, so you can use it for, as I said, kind of accessories. The one on the far right, you can see there's like piping or a wiring harness. So that's the layout that they'll put some stuff. It's
So you
very
think
interesting.
this is from tent 1?
1 or 2, yeah. It's interesting. So something's going on over there.
Have we seen anything else from those tents get removed? I mean, I guess there's no need for them to start removing stuff from that tent other than like the Raptor. Matter of fact, is this part of that Raptor workstation possibly?
It could be.
There?
It could be the Raptor workstation platform, in fact. But I would wonder why they would stick it here and not where we're sticking Raptors now, which is behind the new Mega Bay like lean-to building that they've got. It's a really nice building. Raptors do go inside there. I think that was one of the things you called out ages ago, and then you were like, "Oh no, it's going to the inventory tent." No, it's like I stuck to the lean-to. That's like, no, that's a great place to put Raptors. So you did cover your bases there, but the Raptors themselves being in that location is really nice. You've got some interesting rails. That's that orange stuff just next to the trash can. So right in there, yeah, that's looks like rails for the bridge crane for Mega Bay. That's kind of what it looks like, or the electrical components.
These aren't the. Let me see if I can get a good angle of them. It kind of looks like these.
Ooh, it could be the rigid supports, but that was one of the things that we were looking at last night. I didn't see those supports though. Those look a lot like that, so you're probably right.
Here's a better one. Yeah, if you look at them from this angle, you can see they're almost just about the same length. These actually do look slightly longer, but
well, those are at an angle anyways on the right. So
we did see those yesterday. We thought that they were for the bridge crane in Mega Bay. They were supposed to have the power for it.
Yeah, but those do have the same kind of color, and there's plenty of them. The lengths are almost right as well, so it makes me wonder if those are the same pieces.
They're going to want to. Sorry, they have more of these rectangular frames, right?
But they have. It should only be, I think, the 4. Actually, hold on. Go up to the left. There's a white shipping container, and just to the right of that, those darker pieces. Those right there might be extra corner pieces that we're looking for. Those look about right.
So I mean, it looks like they use about, I don't know, three or 4 of them per. Yeah, there's about 4 of them over here. So I don't know. Maybe this is probably just for the next the 4th section when they need that stabilization for it.
And if you've got any other weird sections that you need to set up, those might work for that. Good catch.
And on that note, while we're talking about the Mega Bay, they've begun installing the cladding on this first piece over here. And I think this is going to look really interesting. At first, we thought the whole building was going to be white. Thankfully, it's not. But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going to be white on the actual. Sorry, what do you call these again?
I can't remember what they're called either, but they're basically the reinforcement because they're basically floor joists essentially, but they're on the outside and there's no floor. But yeah, the really cool part is it's like pinstripe, so like a pinstripe suit. So it's gonna be white on the outside for the I guess you could say the stripes, and the inside will be gray. But then we thought, wait, this is SpaceX. They'll probably paint it. They love to paint things, and then it just goes to becoming rusted 6 months later because they never actually cleaned it before they painted it.
Well, we'll be able to see the rust from much further away now with these. But I kind of like it. It does fit SpaceX's color scheme a little bit more, like kind of how they're the new Star Factory in Florida is two-tone, and also similar to Marvin the crane, same color scheme. So it's actually kind of cool that they're doing that.
Yeah, it is really spectacular. Do you want to move on to the really fantastic stuff below?
Sure. Let's go ahead and talk about the water deluge piping. I don't know if this is the greatest image for it. Maybe it is. I think we want to show it from another angle, huh?
Yeah, the other opposite angle is probably the best angle. Yeah, that one's good because you can actually see a couple of interesting details. So you can see that there's a open lip. So the bottom area is open. I've measured these at a foot. And then there's a panel that will go in between. So this is a segment section that has a top plate that you have two weld lines to connect the two together. That way, you basically have your strength as part of the paneling system itself. Because if you, let's say, had a weld line directly in line with a weld line below it, it puts it at a structural disadvantage. But by putting them offset like that, it's even better. And so you can connect the plates with two weld lines. That one on the right, you can really see it, that it's a 2-foot plate. And each plate themselves, from what I measured and other labels I've seen, these plates are 2 inches thick for just the top plate and the bottom plate. And then the maybe the bottom plate's a little bit thinner, but at least the top plate is.
We measured them at like, I think it was like 1 5/8 or something like that for the top, and then it was like 1 1/4 for the bottom plate or something like that. Ryan did a little measurement on it. I'm not sure if that was the values that he came up with.
Yeah, I've measured it at 2, and I like to use shipping containers and other large objects, or even 2x4s and things like that. And I'll go through and try to double check things, but the labels as well on a bunch of stuff said 2 inches, and I kept measuring 2 inches on these things. The other really cool part, one label that I saw was able to show the exact height of these panels. So the panels themselves go from the top to the bottom 12 inches. And then the other dimensions I measured out was
it's way bigger than that. Hold on, we have a good one with water bottle in frame.
I love the water bottles. 7.5 inches typically.
Ryan did some measurements on it. I don't know if he's okay with me showing it, but I'm going to do that. Let me just give me a second to find that here in the background, and then I'll put that up here for you.
Yeah, if it's the ones he put out on Twitter, he sent us a message saying it was okay. But the one you're referring to is the image of the water-cooled steel plates inside that inventory tent at Sanchez. I got some good shots of them working on it, on the ground shots.
So these are the dimensions that he had. It was massive, 16 inches from top to bottom.
Yeah, it's pretty close to what I saw. And the label itself said 12 inches, and it was actually showing and it was one of their labels, not my label or anything. And I was measuring these things beforehand. It was about the same. So either this is a little bit more of a unique one, but yeah, the top plate is nice and thick.
And hey, Thomas, speaking of this, do one of you guys mind sending me the... Oh, wait, never mind. Indian Star already did it. So while we're on this topic, we should show some application of this, because this is one of my favorite videos that I've seen in a very long time from SpaceX. So if you guys watched the most recent, my deep dive investigation, I kind of talked about this test object right here, because initially it was labeled as a concrete test structure, and it was pretty positive that it was actually the steel sandwich, and it hadn't been completely set up in those flyover images that NASA spaceflight took, because the water piping wasn't connected yet. And so when they actually tested this for the first time, I don't think they used water. I think they tested it without water so that they can get like almost like a control value, so that they know exactly how much wear that it would experience without the water. So you basically have something to compare it to once you do it like this. And, they did that test a very long time ago. It was about 2 months ago. So SpaceX released this, I think, on like Wednesday or something like that. And so it's actually really interesting that they released it now. I wonder if they've been continually doing these tests, or if this is a 2-month-old video. But with that out of the way, I'll go ahead and play it for you all.
That Raptor just is scorching, or not scorching, but just lighting up that area. You can see how bright white it is, just right on the plate or right next to the plate.
Yeah, and hold on, I'm gonna have to mute this on my side because I could not hear a word you were saying.
Yeah, I figured as much. You just kind of were really quiet, like, "Whoa, that was loud."
Yeah, I didn't
But
want
yeah,
to
if you
take my mic.
scroll to the end of this video, because one of the coolest parts about this is you can kind of see there's a similarity between tests. So at the very last little bit, you can see the water. It's subsided quite a bit. It's not nearly as energetic as it was at the beginning. So it's either one of two things. I think it's the second. So the first, it could be that it's damaged, and I don't think they're going to send a video of a damaged plate. So the second is most likely the biggest answer here is they're kind of simulating the testing on what they would do at Starbase. They're doing it here, as far as not just the water deluge, but also like the timing for water, how much water pressure you have, potentially like gases being used to pressurize the system, or just the pressures themselves, because you get this really cool like change beforehand and after. So if you go from this to the back at the beginning, you can see a really big change. So the water was just going to each corner here of your screen, where the after, it's nowhere near that. It's pretty much to the edges to the pad, and that's it. So just massive fire hoses, and the second one's just a small steady stream. And you kind of see the same thing during a normal launch for pretty much everything else. That it starts up, it kind of slow, a little bit slowly, and then it ramps up real large like this. And you start up your engines, or you start up your engines and you ramp up on the water deluge, and then you just hammer the thing.
I love
Then
the
it
way it
slows
just
off.
completely eliminates the water flow immediately. And one of the things I didn't notice was a massive amount of steam generation, and I don't know if it's because the aperture change or whatever.
Oh,
but
you're seeing the steam everywhere. That's the thing, is that area everywhere is the steam. It's vaporizing in every direction.
I guess I didn't expect to be able to still see all of this stuff down here clearly. You can definitely tell the steam right. Ooh, sorry, that looks bad. You can definitely see the steam like right towards the edges right here. That's like, and then it almost looks like it disappears to some degree, but I guess it's just getting thicker. On this whole thing, I guess this is my little rant. I think it's interesting the amount of people who are just flat out saying this won't work, and it's funny to me that people would think that SpaceX would implement something that they didn't already know would work, like testing wise. So like you don't really take on a massive project like this without testing it. And so there's important details about this. I think number one, this flame is within I think it's within the first two mock diamonds. I think one, two. Never mind. There's three right here. And so this is way, way closer than what it will experience on the launch mount. So
this is closer to probably like test stand A or B.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, it's very, I would say it's a little bit less than half the distance, if not about half the distance. And so they're testing this under worse conditions than what it will actually face. And obviously it'll be a little bit different in real life, especially in the center, because of the center Raptor engines all basically being a solid column of flames instead of having like air around the outside of it like you do on for the outer 20 engines.
The world's largest flame torch, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So there will be some differences, but I think this is more punishment than what it would experience in real life. And so it's weird to me that people are just flat out saying, yeah, that's not going to work, even though they're sitting here showing it to us in action. But yeah, that's all I'll say on that one. I'm really glad that they released this video and kind of relieve some of the doubts on that, because this is one of those things where it was probably a good idea to put this video out, because I think it helps the public like have a little bit more faith in what their plan is, because there is so much doubt that it will work for some reason. But yeah, and as I said in my tweet when I retweeted this, flame trenches are not the only solution. So SpaceX is truly, if I had to say one thing that they're known for is they said it in the Everyday Astronaut tour, doing things that are not impossible, but how do they say it?
So if it's the things that are not possible by the laws of physics, that they will do. I'm sorry, the other way around. If it's physically impossible, they can't. But if it's allowed in physics, they will do it. That's their direction and motivation. I think it's the first principles thinking.
Yeah, and that's what they've done from the beginning. I mean, even when it comes to just trying to land the grasshopper for the first time, you know what I mean? Ever since the beginning, everything that they do, everybody's like, that's not going to work. And I guess the counter argument would be what happened, to the base of the launch mount initially. But on that note, I think they, to some degree, expected not quite that bad of a failure, but they expected it to be unusable after. So, and they already knew that wasn't going to be a long-term solution without even having, launched off of it. So, yeah, I don't know. I think people should have a little bit more faith in their design team.
Switch back to the plates themselves from Mauricio's overflight photo, because one thing that's really cool about this design in particular is these are a lot like burn plates, or that's pretty much what they are. So long-term usage, you'll have the metal fatigue, it'll wear down, you'll have some issues because of warping, uneven pressure or heat does some interesting things. Eventually you can replace them, and it's pretty easy to replace. It's steel metal. You can cut it, you can torch it and remove it, as long as it's not using the water system when you're trying to torch it, because it kind of resists that. But yeah, the really cool part is that you can replace it long term, and so it has the ability to be flexible in that sense. You can change the dynamics of how this works. Is say this is version 1, version 2 is 3 years away or something. And it's going to last another 10 years, for instance. That's the version of, or the way of thinking for SpaceX, is that this is a version of it. We're going to do better on the next one, and better on the next one, just as we did previously. So the Fondag, it didn't work out, and they were only going to use it once, and that really didn't work out. But I think it actually saves some time digging, which is useful because, well, now we've probably saved a week. Of the digging side alone.
And before you get too far away from this, there was a question from Chilled Time. He's asking, is it a Raptor 3 in the SpaceX video, or just version 2?
It's probably just a version 2, because there's only one version 3 that they tested so far, right? Why would they test it on this particular element? That
I don't think that
is a big question mark. So that does bring up a good point. Is the future Raptors, the version 3, the version 4 we talked about before, we don't know what version 4 would look like, if it is it even called Raptor at that point. But anyways, the steel plates themselves, you can subject it to so much pressure, especially when you're looking at the launch of the booster. You can throttle it back a bit at the launch. It'll kind of sit there a bit longer, but that's going to be tested anyways for multiple flights. See how many dings or dents or other repairs you need to make with these plates. It's going to be a very versatile system.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it in action. They got a long way to go. I mean, we've only seen 2 of these at this stage right now, so we haven't seen the other 4 started yet. This one right here is a bit of a mystery to me.
It's the same kind of system. So there's 16 holes on this pipe that it angles out. You have to go to the other end, and you can see that, at least the connection. So normally it has 18 to go to one of these plates, but this one, it's missing 2 holes, basically. So they just basically plugged it up at the corners. But yeah, if you switch the view from the roadside, you can see a really interesting connection point. Yeah, that'll work right there. Perfect. So yeah, if you zoom in, you can see they've got a few extra little pieces that are going up. So it basically comes out of the pipe.
There's a bunch of straight ones right here, and then it comes out.
And it's really interesting is that they go through a pattern of large, small, and then they basically got 11 of those, and then 5 small. So all of the smalls are on the this side, the road side, the bottom of the image.
But it's just the thing that I don't get is the volume. The volume of water through this one is going to be significantly different than what's going through these.
Well, there's a good question, and that is, do you connect all of these together? So they're all basically one system connected at the center. So you've distributed pressures evenly. There's more water flow. So some of it might flow to this direction because this side, the pressure is not quite enough. But it's a smaller pipe, so it can hold a bit of pressure. If you had a larger pipe and then it went to a bunch of smaller pipes, you would have some issues there. But yeah, this is already a smaller pipe, and you're reducing the, I guess, the flow on this one. But yeah, if you're connecting it from the other side, basically the 6 points, you should be able to flow backwards into this direction.
Right, and this one should go on the side closest to the tower, I'm guessing. Just with the direction that this pipe is going. But yeah, that's going to be, I guess Ryan's going to have to do some redesigning on that.
Yeah. Well, here's an interesting part. We've only seen really 3 of these basically deluge pipes that are the manifolds that connect into the plates. So are we only dealing with 3 for all 6 legs? Because if we are, then that means that you don't quite have the full circle anyways. So how are you getting to those other plates? Are you basically using water from these systems to supply those ones as well?
Well,
Because that would make a bit of sense.
If we look at the ground images, let me get us over to where we can see that they're working on some more of these inside of the tent, and they look like they're the same. Let me get a better. This one had the hole exposed. Yeah, so you could see that they're working on another set of them in here. So I'm guessing they'll all be the same, relatively.
Oh, this one's different. It screws in. So zoom in. We've seen this plate before.
Yeah, that is.
This is a 2-inch thick steel plate that's been tapped. So the part that comes through is called a nipple. That's the technical term for plumbing. And like looking at this one, you basically can screw on the 2 different sides instead of welding it. So this one is probably a tighter tolerance than the other one.
Yeah, this will be very interesting. I mean, but here, look, we got a Red Bull can to provide some good measurements. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that all of the rest of these are that there's more than just this one under construction in here. But the bigger question is the pipe manifolds that go to these sections. We haven't seen those at all.
Yeah, we're even missing the GSE manifold as well. We think it's in the GSE building, but that thing's being cleared out, and I don't think those would still be in there. So they're floating around somewhere around here.
Yeah,
it could be even in one of the tents.
And since I just realized we're past that 1 hour mark, and we haven't mentioned this yet. If you guys do us a favor, if you haven't already, and hit that like button, we would greatly appreciate you all. It's really nice having larger crowds in here, and to some degree, I think the extra engagement that you guys give us by hitting that like button helps us out by influencing that YouTube algorithm a little bit. So thank you all to everybody who's done that already. And also thanks again for all the donations that have come in today. I think there's a few that we'll probably wait until we get to the end of Sanchez to touch on them, but I've been noticing them come in, so thank you to everybody who's done that. And I'll move us back to that aerial. I'm really going to have to adjust this week.
Oh yeah, they've got a new manifold connection at the bottom right. So to see the that black looking box, it's like an umbrella. Zoom in just above that, you can see that they've got the reducer. It's a replacement. This is the brand new one. The old one was a red one, so they changed the reducer fitting, and it's fitting the black pipe just below it. So it's the similar system, but it's different. I think the material was either thinner or something else was wrong with it because
I wonder if they
pulled it out.
That's the same size as this.
Yeah, it might even be connected directly to it.
That makes sense. So all five, the other five are all connected, and this one is probably on its own, I'm guessing.
Yeah, this is probably splits off as the Y, but the question is, does it have its own connections to its own plates? Because if it does, you might do some interesting things, at least on that left one. Or does it go off to another one of these? The puzzle pieces are kind of here, but it can be put together in a couple of different ways. It makes it a bit of a mystery because you don't have all of the pieces. It's like you've got a puzzle, but it's different shapes is the best way to describe it, and you have to figure out how they go together, and a lot of the answers are wrong. But yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff going on with that. I'm excited to see it. Well, let's move on with some other parts of Sanchez because things are changing. By the way, before you move over to another photo, see all those see all those white pieces in the inventory site that we're just looking at?
Yeah. Back
They
to
can, yeah. Just zoom in right to the middle of those white pieces on the left. The very left ones, those were the ones that I talked about. They moved around 3 times in the week, just moving around, not doing anything, because they're trying to get stuff in the back of all these piles. But let's go upwards a little bit before you showed all the good stuff. They got more concrete in.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say they added more. I mean, it kind of flows with what you're talking about here. They moved all this stuff so that they could pour the last of this, lay the last of this concrete down.
Yeah, and they're setting up the shelving, and they're blocking themselves in to get to the shelving at the same time. So that makes a bit of a problem. So you want your shelving set up before you lay it down and call it good, because they boxed everything in. But they'll get it. But what's really kind of neat is the amount of changes going on at the inventory site. We see all of the parts coming in for pretty much every starship we need. We've got, booster, 13's grid fins, something along those lines. And they even moved, if you go down to the bottom, I think bottom right of this image with the inventory site, you can see there's the kettle boilers. So they've stored them long term here.
Yeah, I'm hoping those get moved to the launch site soon, but they got other priorities, I think, at the moment. So
the one on the right, it's usable. The one on the left, it's just like it's asking to be used, but they might not have a use for it.
Wouldn't this be for like suborbital side?
Maybe if you get test stand C, but it needs brand new installation. It's all rotted at this point. So go over to the left a bit. Got an interesting piece of news. So see those green boxes? Yeah, so those are all for a brand new power distribution system for 3-phase power. You can even see a few more below your mouse there. So for those, and then they're going up above. So this is all just go directly above on this from this part of the lot. Further up a little bit, you can see this is their new substation. So it's the Sanchez substation and backup power generation unit just above it. So they're running conduit, and they even got the red dye safety concrete being done over and over again. Anytime they run any of this conduit, they pretty much throw that red dye on it. It's like, this is danger dye. Don't go any deeper. You're putting your life at risk if you do. So that's also kind of a note for people digging around in their own properties. If they ever see red dye around concrete, don't go any further. But yeah, this is really kind of neat that they've gone throughout the entire site, even going to the launch site to do power distribution, because they've been mostly on generators. So you've got like 2 generators above us here. Those 2 white boxes right there, those are generators, probably about at least a megawatt each or more. And then you've got the generator that's basically a liquid natural gas, liquid natural gas, which is on those tanks to the right. They vaporize it and turn it into just basically natural gas. And they run it through those generators to generate about 13.1 megawatts. And that's been some of their power distribution for a while now, is they would be bringing these in, and now they have the opportunity to basically use Magic Valley Co-op as their direct supplier of a lot of this voltage that they used to use on generators. So that's going to save them a ton of money.
Yeah, and they'll probably still keep the generators because they're going to need backup power just in case at all times. But they at least probably won't be using them, and they may not need as many of them.
Yeah, so it used to be that particular unit, it would only turn on once a month. Back when it was in Albany, Oregon, it was at a wood processing manufacturer, wood processing site, so lumber and all that, and it would just turn on once a month for 60 minutes, and that was about it. It was just a maintenance cycle check, pretty much.
Noticing, I'm trying to get a better image of this. These looks like steel boxes down here.
Yeah, they got manholes as well, so those are potentially for the high voltage power that they're running everywhere.
It's weird
or
that they
could
have steel
be.
boxes.
Well, they're concrete. They're concrete boxes.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
They look like steel.
The top is steel, so it's like a manhole cover that's steel, but the rest of the boxes that you see just below your mouse, they're just preformed boxes.
I don't know. They look. I mean, they. I believe you. They do look like steel, though.
If you look at stainless steel all day, yeah, everything looks like stainless steel when it's gray.
Yeah.
These are not vaults?
They would be vaults, but it's for power distribution, I think. Because I don't see any holes for.
There's 5 of these and 5 of those.
Zoom in on those a little bit. Looks like it could be for transformers, so they might go inside those boxes
or on top of them.
Oh, I would say like inside the boxes. You can bury your transfers underground. A lot of places do that, but you have to keep it out of the water at the same time. Otherwise, bad things happen.
Yeah, that's going to be quite the job to get all of this finished. And I mean, hey.
Yeah, so that's going to be another thing that you can see on the ground photos. It's really cool to look at it on there because it's for basically a sump for your nice pumps for cryogenics. It's the well that all your cryogenics will go through as the pump is doing its thing. It goes through that little well right there. So you bury that in the ground. We've already seen, what was it? At least 5 for the LOX side, and was it 4 for the methane side of the orbital fuel farm?
You saw these in the ground images?
Yeah, so they, at least last week's ground images, but they should still be there too.
I think it's probably behind this truck right now.
Yeah, that's not the best angle. There. Oh, yeah, there it is. Just floating there. So if you got another picture with the gentleman not in front of it, you'd have a better view. But yeah, that's basically what it is. And that does, I don't think that itself receives any of the cryogenics, but it's basically what the well is inside. It prevents any water from penetrating in because this is going to be below ground, and you basically want to keep the thermal, energy from like expanding water and cracking things and breaking things. So you basically are keeping it in a dry place. This is how you do it.
Well, this actually does, the cryo fluid does go inside of this, so they wrap this in insulation and then lower that in the hole, and then the pump goes into here.
But the pump itself doesn't pump the cryo against the skin of this. Otherwise, you can have the freezing issue I was talking about. But it's, really kind of a cool piece that you can look at as like, is this going to suborbital or orbital side? It'd be very weird if it's going to orbital, but you never know.
Well, one thing to consider is, they may need to actually move the pumps, which is something we'll talk about, I guess, when we get to the launch site. But yeah, they may potentially need to move the pumps, so that, in my opinion, would make sense that they would start bringing in equipment to do that. Yeah,
they'll need quite a few more of those. If you actually want to go up to the rocket garden, there's just a quick, interesting note up there to just briefly talk about. So it's interesting is that we're going through a lot of the boosters. Go to the booster pad just to the left that's empty. They just cleaned all the embeds right there. So last, was it the 16th? they went through, cleaned off all the embeds, so they plan on putting another booster there soon. That's the only reason why you clean embeds. It's like, oh yeah, we got to do something with this.
Do you think
So
maybe Booster 9 will go there while they're waiting
yes.
to? Yeah.
Yeah, so Booster 9 is probably going to make a rendezvous here and sit out in the crane yard, and Booster 4 is going to go bye-bye. Because if it's not useful, or like, I guess it's for show. Booster 4 is for show, but when Booster 9 sits there, it's like, well, it's going to be sitting there until it goes off and does its testing, but we'll pretty much have a booster ready to take its place, or two, by the time it rolls out to the launch site.
I'm gonna stick with the camp that Booster 4 will never get scrapped.
It's done nothing. It does nothing to deserve it. And here's the interesting kicker. They've replaced and upgraded all of the transport stands, including this one. So they want that transport stand, I think, more than the booster, but it is on display. So you keep things on display. That's kind of the rule. You always have to have one booster and at least one Starship on display at all times. They're keeping up with that rule, and in this case, it looks like they're keeping up to at least 3 or 4.
I don't know. So Booster 9 is currently on top of a transport stand. I don't know what 10 and 11 are on top of, but they do have, 1, 2, 3 transport stands and that they can, put in service if they need to. So I don't know. I just don't see a reason to scrap 4, especially with everything else they're doing right now. Like, there's not necessarily
not right now
room to do it.
It's soon. As soon as they basically have basically 3 other boosters that they are building and then 1 other on the way, that one's gone. The next booster stand needs to still be constructed. It'll probably sitting around for a while. But if you have any ground shot views of that transport stand, it's kind of interesting because the structural elements on the transport stand itself have been modified and in such a way that it will allow for, I think it's possibly that one image you're just looking at.
Really?
Yeah. So right in there, maybe. Nope,
No,
not the same one.
Site.
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
I don't know if we have close-ups of it other than this one.
Oh, that's good enough. Zoom in on the bottom section there. So you remember those pieces that we called like the Mickey Mouse ears? Well, you can see that they've got this other structural elements attached. So these transport stands can really take the weight now. So probably for cryogenics, the Mickey Mouse ear pieces pretty much go with that as well. So you would be able to strap something down so that the booster doesn't go flying off if it does try to take flight during a cryo test. This would be used at basically the cryo station at the orbital pad. But right now that one's probably out of decommission. I was hoping it was going to be headed over to Massey's, but now that one's kind of in doubt. Anyways, that was the part that kind of says its life is limited.
I think if they scrap it, I could imagine it happening the moment they get the bridge crane inside of High Bay or Mega Bay 2 installed. Like, I can't imagine them having time to do it until then.
They're very busy, you're right. But as soon as they need either that pad or the transport stand, it's out of here.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Well, shall we move away from Sanchez? Is there anything else we need to touch on in here?
Just the scrapyard is looking great. They're working their way through quite a few things. But other than that, it's done for Sanchez now.
Cool. Let's hop over to
Do you want
the
to
ring
do
yard then.
donations and questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
We'll start with the donations. We have lots of them. All right. Starting with a 5 membership donation from Rocket Profit, and those donations went to Hiccup, Gwen Ever, Meme R. Jono, Trent, and Stan G. Welcome to the family, guys. Jim Cavett donated $10 and says thank you for the great work you all do. RP, Rocket Profit, also donated $10, and he says, love to be slinging green and making friends. Jim Cavett donated another $10. He says he's with RP. James Wilson donated $20 and says, a bullet train into the future. All aboard? Brian I'm going to butcher the last name and I apologize. Letcher donated $10. Thanks for the work. Jim Cavett, again, donated $5 and says all aboard. Chris Lyons donated $10. James L., $10. Love the pictures. So do I. Mauricio got some great shots this time on the flyover, too. Jim Cavett, $5 for CSI Coffee Fund. And more gifted memberships. Jim Cavett gifted a membership to Dr. Hood, who was the recipient. Chris Lyons donated 5 memberships, and they went to Carl West, Charlie Cushing, Iron Fist, Valerie Jones, and Queen Bees. Congratulations and welcome to all of our newest members. And then when we're talking questions, we have a question about the plates. Justin IMO asks, it almost looks like there's a different design for water spray on the right and left side of the plates. Do you see that as well?
So the plates themselves have a striation, especially you can see on that left plate. It looks very similar to the material that they used that was like aluminum sheen for the BART platform, but this is stainless steel. It's not aluminum. So it's a really good question of exactly what those are for. If maybe they're just structural elements built into the plate surface itself. So if it has ridges or something like that. But again, it's hard to tell. I'm not even sure why you would do that on this side. You would do it most likely on the inside if you're going to increase the strength of the thing. You don't want it to be catching flames. But the idea of them being holes, I haven't seen any holes yet so far. There might be some smaller ones. Let's say on the right one, those could be some small holes, but a lot of them. In general, the surface area that you should be looking at for total amount of area for the holes over the entire plate is about, was it like 15 or 14 square feet? Basically, it's the diameter of the pipe. So the main pipe flowing in, that's going to be the area that you will have spread out for all of the different holes. In theory, so you could increase it as far as the area, but you basically decrease the pressure that it has on the backing for that entire area. So you want to get the pressure to be at least 160 psi in order to counteract the forces of the engines themselves. But you probably want it to be a lot higher than that. So 300 bar is about what they're putting in, which is about 4,300 psi ish. So you could decrease it by quite a bit, or I'm sorry, increase the area by quite a bit. So it's just a multiple of about 160 bar or 160 psi.
Wowzer. Okay. I got 2 Massey's questions for you. On the Water asks, what's your best guess for a booster timeline getting to Massey's?
It depends on if it's a cryo station for a booster or another cryo station for a ship, but this time for puck shucking. So if it's puck shucking for ship, not going to happen for quite a while. Would be probably looking at 8 months or something. I was hoping, and I still am, that it's for a cryo stand for a booster, because that seems to be really necessary. They need to get in there and test it, and I'm not sure they have that capability currently at the orbital fuel farm yet. But yeah, that's my fingers crossed. I'm hoping they'll do that, and if it is, 2 months or less.
And then the last question is from Ian. He asks, oh, there it goes. Any idea what the ring on the stand is by the entrance of Massey's?
Ring on the stand at the entrance of Massey's. Oh, yeah, that was 26.1's aft ring. They chopped it down, so it's about 9 feet shorter. So that's a ring and a half. So yeah, they need to do that just to do the puck shucking underneath.
Thank you. Those are the questions that have to do with what we've seen so far.
All right. Awesome. Well, back at the ring yard, and I don't think we have Ajax with us today, so we can handle this, I guess. But yeah, so first things first, it looks like they're making some major headway with grading out this area right here. Still not fully certain what it will be used for yet.
Probably for staging, just for Mega Bay once
Yeah.
they're going. But right now it needs to be leveled off. That was the main concern, obviously, and they are almost done with that. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm guessing they'll just have a regular concrete pad here, and I mean they could theoretically do all of their pre-construction here instead of doing it in the middle of Sanchez. That will kind of make things easier. The crane will be able to turn around and pick things up and then just lift it over. So yeah, I guess we'll see relatively shortly if that's what they end up using it for.
Yeah, Sanchez would still be used as far as inventory of parts, but they would have a smaller inventory over here that they can collect from.
Yeah, and they were making some major headway on actually getting High Bay or High Bay 3, Mega Bay 2, whatever you want to call it, construction underway. So now they have started on the first level this week. And I think this is going to go actually a little bit faster than I was expecting, kind of. Still not as fast as Mega Bay 2, I don't think. Or Mega Bay 1. Geez, these numbers are going to get really annoying. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely moving relatively fast on this. And we're still waiting on the LR 11,000 to show up. So this crane, I think, what is this, the LR
1300?
1300, yeah. So both times that they built, well, when they built this one and also the one in Florida, when they started that one, they had this crane as a partner to help with that construction. So usually this one does all the small work while the LR 11,000 does all of the actual corner sections and whatnot. So
and
yeah,
I heard something interesting about this particular crane.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the one from Roberts Road. So not only did we get all the steel for Mega Bay, we got their crane too.
Yeah, I think that LR 11,000 from Roberts Road will be coming down here as well too.
Well, that one's a SpaceX Buckner owned one. It's really weird. They both own it.
Yeah, and I think since Buckner is still doing this job, I think it makes sense. I mean, if they brought one crane here to bring the other one because they don't really have a use for it, and it's still on SpaceX property. So, yeah, that'll be very interesting to see. Let me get another angle of this too. Yeah, we've got a ton of dirt work out here. They're flattening all this. I think this is the first time they've actually replaced this part of the pad, but they did a bunch of
culvert for irrigation,
drainage.
or not irrigation, but water drainage.
Yeah, so they have the 3 drainage pipes that come in through here. And so, you know what? I've actually never really noticed any drainage issues in this area, in the ring yard. But either way, it's good to have. I mean, especially with it being unlikely that there will be anything else in this area once all of this is complete. So, yeah, this is going to be a really interesting look to the Starbase once this is completed.
Well, here's the craziest thing: is I went through, looked at the area that this will basically be the drainage for. It takes up 20% of the build site for all of the drainage. So it, based off of like the slope of the runoff of the roofs and other things, 20%. That's still a pretty good number.
Yeah, I'm wondering if at some point they will, have all of these rings for starships, and then have a second ring yard above this for the booster parts.
No doubt. I mean, like the right hand side would be the input, the left hand side would be the output, and you just switch around with the transport stands continuously. Speaking of which, the really kind of cool and exciting news is not actually the rings, in my opinion. I mean, there's like one new one for changes. I think it was like the booster, or sorry, the common dome on the right, I think, or it was that one up there. One of those two. That was the newer one. But everything else is kind of the same, except there's a lot more transport stand rings. So I'll give this away again because I kind of talked about it earlier. The GSE guys, the ground fabrications guys, have been pumping these out like crazy. So you can see 2 rings over there, and you're showing that the GSE building is kind of going away. So there's an area just right underneath your mouse. That's a lean-to that was just right this location. There's actually another, I think, lean-to that was just a little bit smaller back here to the right, but it was just small. But this one, yeah, that was kind of useful for the shade. So they don't need it. Why? I don't think they need the building right now. They're they don't want this building, or I think any of the buildings all the way up to the new Star Factory.
Yeah, I
And
mean, this is definitely going away for sure. I mean, they deconstructed all of the stands
solar
for the
panels,
solar panels, and now they're getting rid of the
shipping
shipping
containers.
containers.
Yeah, it's just crazy. So all of that's going away, and then like the middle of all this operation, these guys are still building those ring stands, and now they finally got rid of the welding center right there. So you see where basically that's that rusty spot that has the little gantry crane. Yeah, that big giant rust patch. That was where they were constructing these ring stands. So they were just pumping them out left and right, and it's that rusted steel stuff again. And there's still a pile of it just to the left of your screen, and they've been picking from that and their own little pile that they're just like, okay, even though we're moving out, we're still working hard because this building's going away. We still need a lot of rings. They're ramping up production. That's the craziest part. Right when they're ramping up production, these guys are pumping out rings, even though their building is going away.
Yeah, I wonder where they're going to move the functions of this building to.
Sanchez, some of it.
I wonder if they'll actually relocate the entire structure. Like, I don't know if that's even necessary, but
they might just sell it to somebody else because they might not have room for it. Unless, say, they could get a spot at Sanchez to fill it in.
And take us back over the ring yard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting.
We're going to get more into that a little bit. So.
Yeah, and like as Thomas was mentioning, there's all these extra rings out here. These are all brand new, most of them. But yeah, this angle is really cool, being able to see all of this.
I love the labels too. And then there's this like tooling ring wall. We're thinking that particular one is for booster pucks, or at least Jax is. So he's not with us, but at least I can recall what he said and the reasoning behind it. But yeah, it's smaller diameter than your normal 9-meter ring, so it looks like this would be directly for a booster puck section, so the aft section.
Wonder what cooling ring wall means, though.
Tooling ring wall might
tooling.
mean,
I thought it said cooling.
Or fooling ring wall. That's another one. Yeah, there was one of the names last week. It was pretty funny. It was like covered in dirt, so it said something very funny, like thief or something. So they stole the name. But anyways, the fun part about the labels is it will hopefully go that direction. They might change them over time. But the only time you would really need these is if you're looking at them from the air. So either they're drones or Mauricio. So as he's doing the flyovers, they're like, hey, here's the answer to your what this is question. It's right there. That's the label. Obviously, some of these are not what they actually say they are, but eventually, hopefully, they will be. So, anyways, that's pretty fun.
And let me move to a better image of this. 1 second. I thought there was something else going on over here that... Oh, yeah. So one thing I wanted to mention, that they have their little office trailer set up for Mega Bay construction now. I think this is also like their break room and whatnot.
That's not the only one. Go back to the back end of High Bay if you can get a view from over there.
I don't know if we have a backside view.
Oh, we definitely do. It's very unusual. You might be one of the Sanchez picks, but you can kind of see it there. You can see it in the ground shots. But yeah, it's a little bit of a fun, like, oh, there we go. Perfect. Yeah. So you could see they're building up. Oh, you lost the image. Yeah. So you can see they're building up offices. So it's the trailer office structures that you basically butt them up against each other after you take on the plastic walls. And then you connect them together, and then the roof, you put a patch in between, and basically the same thing for all the walls and the sides. In fact, their launch control complex for the first orbital launch, they did the exact same thing. Basically, they use these office structures
at the Astro building.
Yeah, that's exact same building style that they've got here. Like this one's actually much bigger than their launch complex or launch control center for their initial launch that they did.
I wonder why they need this one.
Well, think about it this way: they're going to be. Well, we'll actually get back to this in a bit. They need these for a lot of reasons, but we'll get to it here. So the same thing for the Mega Bay construction. That's just for the contractors, most likely.
Keep moving away from that image on accident. Yeah, and so they have. What else do they have down here? I think all these water tanks are new.
Yep, those are new water tanks. And one thing that we looked at is that they are potentially for code. So in order to have occupancy up at the top level of Mega Bay, you need basically some sort of fire suppression system in order to have an occupancy level of greater than what, 1? you have to have some amount of code requirement to say that you can have this be a habitable space for, let's say, an office, a viewing deck, not for launches, but one of those things. I did see them bring up some green pipes a while back. They're supposed to be, as Dave said, black, but these seem to be rusted. You can actually see some other ones over at Sanchez at the old, what's it called? Gas wells. Yeah, those green pipes. Yeah, but they rusted. So they are steel pipes. So I think those are part of their fire suppression system that they have up in the top of Mega Bay. I don't know why they're green, but they are metal, so they should be high pressure pipes. And they even have these weird angles.
Their water pipes are green, right?
Maybe. It's a very odd part that I noticed ages back. And then here's the really cool piece. If you can see from another view of Mega Bay, yeah, let's see if we can get a front view or even a back view of Mega Bay. You just kind of want to see that the top end, really. That one should have it. Oh yeah, the one just to the right of it. Yeah, that's. Just go over 2, 3, two more over to the left. There you go. You can see it now. Perfect. Zoom in at the very top.
Oh, are we trying to show the windows?
Yeah, we got windows. We finally got windows.
On that.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you got the hint when I was trying to say the top of it.
I was like, what are we looking for?
But yeah, I mean, we finally got windows. I mean, I hope these don't crash.
Yeah, this was
different
really
kind of windows.
We were assuming about 2 weeks ago that this would happen within 2 weeks, and yeah, we were pretty much hit that one on the nail. And yeah, I mean, it's really exciting to see them finally having this up. That you can tell that they are skipping over all of the parts where the structural beams are. I'm guessing these may have to be lifted in from the outside. No,
yeah, they have installers that will be working on the outside. The issue is the columns, so you can't get it around those two columns or each of those columns, and it's going to be covering it up for those windows. So they're going to have guys out on the scaffolding to install those particular ones from the outside, because I don't see how you're going to do it the other way. But the fun part is, you mentioned we predicted this a couple weeks ago. Really, we predicted this back in December. We were like, why aren't they installing the windows yet? It must be for the orbital launch attempt. It's going to be installed right after the orbital launch attempt. And so they are.
Yeah, this is going to look awesome when all of the scaffolding is finally gone.
Yeah, the blue pieces are the actual connection pieces. We've seen those go up for a while now.
Yeah, I would love to see what this looks like on the inside once they finish it.
Yeah, you've got your own little version of that, right? Or is that high bay that you've got?
Bay? Yeah. This one's probably going to look much cooler. I mean, there's just so much floor space. It's kind of insane.
You're going to have a lot more couches and office equipment just for your renderings if you use this one.
Yeah. And I'm just wondering about overall occupancy, because I imagine this elevator is super slow.
There's two of them. There's the one right there, and then there's one on the left.
I guess you queue up at whichever one has the lowest line. But yeah, this is going to be. I hope one day they actually show us the inside of this structure once it's finished.
Whichever one is the closest to the bathroom is going to be the most used elevator of the two.
I think another cool thing, I don't think they'll have a balcony on this. It doesn't look like.
No.
But if they did, that would be cool, just because you can wave over at people in the other Mega Bay when that's complete. But yeah,
Elon, I think he stays there sometimes because there's like two places: the high bar, and then there is the other side, which is like this.
The other side of the high bay.
It's a studio, basically, yeah. And I think it's got 2 accesses, so you've got basically you can go for the front of the building or the back of the building to go outside, and that's every time Elon stays there, he's going to pass by and there's going to be a photographer looking up with the telephoto lens. So he's like, okay, I hope I brushed my my hair before I did this. But by then it's all in the wind anyway, so yeah. But yeah, that's where he's been seen a couple of times. But yeah, it's pretty neat.
Did you notice all the new stairways and ramps that they got down here?
No, I have no idea what those are for.
Yeah.
Unless they're for
well, okay. So as far as I know, the stairways in the front corners don't actually reach up to the top level yet.
Yeah, they don't. These ones are really weird because they look really long, or maybe they're just really steep.
Yeah, I mean, here, let me show a side view. If I got one, maybe this will do. So the stairs in the front corner, but the access way is like way over here. So I think they need a long stairway to come this way to reach it. And I don't know if that's what these ones are right here, but this looks like a.
Those are for either ramps, or those are for the access to one part of Mega Bay to the other. So just walkways or catways.
Oh, like
catwalks. To the top? Sorry, yeah, I couldn't remember the right word, but yeah, catwalk.
Oh, that would make sense. Yeah,
but yeah, go back to the stairs. So go down a little bit if you can. Where does it end on that image? Yeah, it ends.
Let me go back here.
We need a wide angle lens with a whole lot more pixels. But yeah, go up to the top part. Yeah, that does kind of look like a catwalk. Yeah, those stairs, I can't tell if they're really steep or really shallow, and it kind of looks like they're shallow.
Yeah, they look pretty shallow.
Otherwise, they are very, very, very steep.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where those go if we ever are able to figure that one out.
They actually are some stairs kind of like that over at the launch site. We'll have to double check on that.
Oh, good point. That's probably exactly what those are. Okay. Yeah, we'll get to that here in a second then. Interesting. Yeah, I have no idea what those stairs are for, but we'll touch on that here in a bit. Well, let's speak on the ships that we got in here for a second.
Yeah, 29 on the right, and then 28 on the right. Yeah, 29 on the left.
Yeah.
Apparently, I have a problem with these two ships. I keep calling it like the one on the left 20 or something. But yeah, the 20 has just been almost fully stacked. It's still got one more left, which is that aft section, which is the thrust puck and all of the goodies there.
Where is it? I'm guessing inside the Star Factory.
Yeah, probably, or one of the tents, because it's probably like in tent 2. That's where they seem to be doing a lot of that stuff. So it's the fit and finish work. So piping, electrical, just everything that needs to be pre-run, they do it in that tent. And it's very similar for the booster. Basically, they use the tents for those.
So I want to show this from the ground view. If we have a frontal, there we go.
Yeah, 28 there, it needs the flaps. It's a new style for connectors. So they have to special order those. And there's the 2-point lift system. And you don't quite see it on this one, but the other flyover picture you had, they connected to one of the 6-point lifts. It's this is such a cheat. you go down to 2, but you still needed 3.
See, I thought that as well at first, but the fact that they're able to at least put on these tiles here in all 4 of those locations where they need them kind of makes sense, because they don't need them on these on those 2 mounting points. Matter of fact, I think, oh no, we can't see it on that ship. So they only 4 out of the 6 lifting points need the the tiles.
Yeah, it does reduce the workload on that. That's good.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what happens at the launch site with this, like how they get it onto the test stand. Like, because they don't, as far as I know, they don't have another one of these yet.
They have to share. So
that'll
that's
be interesting.
you send it to the build site and the launch site in the same day because they got to use it on both sides. One thing I still hope that they do is remove the current 6-point lift system because it's overkill for lifting the whole ship. They don't need to do that anymore. If they can reduce the mass, either through eyelets or whatever else, just reduce it as much as possible. You can basically increase your payload mass. That's a plus. Reduce the part count. That's a plus. Simplify the design. Another plus. Reduce the amount of time that you're basically building these, because if you only have, like, let's say 4 versus 6, that's another advantage. But you still need something to lift it up at the nose cone. Otherwise, if you try to lift it up at this point, while you're, let's say, doing installation of a nose cone onto a barrel section, it'd flip over. Or even just a barrel section and a nose cone to the next ring down, it's iffy. You have to basically have the weight attached directly below it for that next section in order to make it work. But yeah, that's beautiful. They stuck those together basically in pairs. So they lift it down and get it ready and start welding the first one, and then they go to the next one right after.
Oh, wait, hold on. Is this... I guess I'm wondering why these are missing from right here.
Those are probably for the pipe work that's on the inside. So there is the header tank pipes for methane on one and the oxygen on the other, but I don't understand why it would go all the way down. Scroll down a little bit more. Should only go into the methane tank. Yeah, that's weird. I can understand one side, but I don't understand the other. I'll have to ask Jax on that one later when we have that opportunity. Ooh.
He's not in here. That doesn't help us.
Well, he'll telechat the answer, and we'll have to wait next week. Or until we watch the replay here. Oh.
Nice little dents on 28.
Yeah, little beauty marks. It'll pop right out. They always do.
It'll be a big deal.
Just tell it's about to fly. It'll pucker right up, and it'll get rid of those dents here really quick, especially after it's pressurized.
I feel like I got to move through this a little quicker. Since
go to mid bay, just do it. And if you can go to the 16th.
Oh, okay, because you want to show that.
Yeah, I mean it's a big.
Still?
Yeah, it's still in there, but this time it's tarped.
Okay, let me pull up an image from the 16th.
And this is not the one I wanted. Let me delete that. I'm gonna send you an image here.
This huge mouse pointer is actually not that convenient when I'm trying to do real things with it.
Oh, absolutely not. Like, it hides everything. You're looking at labels like, what does this thing do? And the mouse is covering the entire label. So right. Accessibility options are terrible in that sense.
This one will probably work. Let's see.
So there's the working theory on this. This is not the best view, but it's good enough for now. This is a good chance. We're thinking it's for HLS. So the Human Landing System, that's the NASA program for the overall Artemis program. This would be the moon lander. This would be a prototype for it. So you could see the piece with the tarp from yesterday. So what they've done is they've installed the piece down there, just right as the angles imply, like it should connect together, but it hovers over it. So the cross piece is basically just hovering, unless they go through and cut at those, I'll call them spokes, but they're like little trusses. So they're I-shaped or I-beam shaped pieces that are these 10 of those, and it's a decagon. So it's a 10-sided object for the black piece, and you can see another panel to the top right. So all of this should go together. We thought where it was like the dome was flipped over, but it kind of changed a little bit. It still works for one of the working theories as far as HLS. I'm thinking that it's part of the airlock system, or it could be that this just sits on the top dome for some reason and has a hexagon, or I'm sorry, a decagon on top of the dome. So it's very odd.
Yeah, I think I
But
have a better shot looking in here from.
yeah, I've got a render I'm putting in for you. So if you want to grab that, that'll be the best way to look at it. Is what it has now. So Jax went through it painstakingly in Photoshop. He at some point got this image, and he saw some interesting details from the piece that we already knew. And if you want to pull up that image that I just dropped into the oh shoot, wrong channel.
I was like, where is it?
I just looked down because somebody paged me in the other channel. So I was looking at it and I didn't even read their comment. But yeah, the piece now you can see from the Chrome Kiwi. He put this together, and this is basically what's going on. So each of those pieces, the truss or but yeah, they're basically I-beam shaped pieces. They're about 6 inches away from 9 meters on each side, so about a foot total. So it's a little bit weird, but that's basically what's going on. So it's a decagon hovering over a void decagon. So there's two ideas: either a panel system, or you cut the trusses on the bottom side, and it will just basically bend in, and you have to reinforce it, and the whole thing becomes kind of weird. But you could basically call it a structure to be reinforced, the dome itself. But my idea in general right now is that it could be part of the HLS system as an airlock. That's something that they currently will need. And so interesting pieces that I think goes with it. We had some people
I guess
going through.
the weird part about that is the shape of the dome. Just because it's like your forward dome is not in the shape. But I mean, I guess this could sit on top of the forward dome.
Yeah, it could be. So I've got a link here for you. This is from Starship 3D. He posted this a little bit ago. That would be another interpretive view of what this would look like if it's going to be right on top of that dome, which again, it's a decagon on top of the dome. It's kind of weird. I do like the idea of this though, is if you move it up a bit further, so at least 2 rings, and we do have kind of 2 rings floating out and about. We're not sure where they're at right now, but it's just a double stack, and those are unusual. You would basically have a payload, or not payload, but an ability to put in a whole system for a floor just above the forward dome, and then you have a well, this version of it, it's got the thrusters, but it has them at the bottom, which is a really odd place to put them. You would typically put them up higher, but maybe this will work. You're right next to your fuel source, so you don't have as much lines or anything else to run by.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
that's a very interesting interpretation. But this would basically be part of a floor. I think it's part of an airlock because they have a system where, like, I think this one was 4 point something meters, but the airlock that I've seen that they have for the HLS design was 2.67. It's close, but the version I've seen that they've got built is too small. Maybe they go a bit bigger. Maybe it still works with this. But anyways, the idea being it would be connected to an elevator. There would be their airlock, and they've just reutilized some room, and you can access other things inside of there. So if you remove floor panels, you can go through and fix avionics that's gone broken, or work on it, or test it or something if you need to. Or maybe even the air handling systems, all sorts of useful things in that void. So it's kind of a fun thought experiment of how they're potentially going to do this system. Until we actually see a few more parts, it's going to be hard to tell. But the interesting part in general is they are prototyping in mid-bay. So mid-bay has been that direction. It's like pulling parts from other vehicles or parts of like 22, so flaps or systems. It's like, this is still good. We can use it on this. They'll take it off and throw it onto something else. So ship 22 was like ship 21, 22, 23. It was this Franken rocket of all rockets. But anyways, that was what mid-bay has been used for. And anyways, I think unless you've got any other ideas,
Nope.
that's it.
Nope. We're gonna have to speed through the Star Factory section.
Okay, I got an image I'll send you. It's going to be the speedy part of Star Factory here. So if you pull that up, and yeah, so they've just installed the vapor barrier on the right after they went through and did the geofabric. That's that black stuff that's on the left pad, and then they're installing rebar on the right. So it goes the pads, it goes the pads, the conduit, the geofabric, then the vapor barrier, and then the concrete with forms, and the rebar. It's like a pretty quick, simple process, but they're repeating it here on the right hand side, and then they're going to go to the bottom left hand side next. And the top side is actually pretty close to being done as well, so that'll happen fairly quickly. And I counted 58 pads total, most of them on the right side. They only have 19 left to do. Again, mostly on the right-hand side. The big news also is the press pit. So if you zoom in on that, they've gone through and put in concrete, at least in the central part. So there's concrete walls, and they've got embeds. So you can see a really cool structure starting to form. So this is going to be for a large machine, basically be a press, but I'm not sure which kind and what's going to be used for as far as parts. I think maybe stringers, because that's something they go through a lot of, but it could be used for pretty much anything. Got some red conduit or danger dyed conduit just to the right. And if you pull up the image, if I posted it first. If you pull up the image I just posted, it's just a GIF, so it'll run through the past 3 flyovers lined up on this area. So if you look at what's going on the Star Factory, the left-hand side up the GSE building, you'll see it's packed with stuff. They remove things, it just disappears. I don't have yesterday's flyover, just the 16th. I didn't have time to do it last night, but things are moving very quickly. The entire left-hand side, I think, is going to be Star Factory. Within the future, the right-hand side will also be Star Factory. So the one area that's weird is that left box that I've got outlined right there. That one is another property owned by Novus Primes or Novus whatever, and they're probably going to just ask for a lot of money for that parcel because they bought it back in 2020, and the only thing that you do to or need that for is just to make money off of it.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense. I guess the one thing that we should maybe expect to see then would be the.
Oh, they cleaned out low bay. It's got the 2 parts that were ever used in it at this point pulled out. So those are the 2 right there, ready to move somewhere else. It was a useful building, but if they're building a full Star Factory, that's a whole lot more useful.
Yeah, that's going to be really awesome. I mean, I wonder, the one part that I think may be difficult. I guess they don't necessarily need to access the back way through these tents.
Well, they'll do what they did with the current Star Factory. There's a basically an alleyway for better term that you can move rings in and out of. It's just that little section with the door. Yeah, so that entire area is an alleyway. They'll eventually connect the buildings together as they're constructing the 2 buildings, but the tents will have to come down first. But yeah, you've got a nice little alleyway. They'll have to remove low bay, the shipping containers that are connecting low bay to tent 3. everything is already getting cleared out right now. And the exciting part is that we're going to have the Star Factory like extraordinary, because it's instead of the 320,000 square feet it would be if it included all the tents up to basically where the shipping containers end, it would be about 720,000 square feet, according to the GIF I showed before.
That's insane.
Well, if you want to make it to Mars, this is how you do it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I'm guessing, so we're going to say that the shipping containers that we saw in the back of the high bay were maybe to replace these ones?
Yeah, there's a good chance that they'll replace those, or it's because they're pulling out everything else. So the GSE, they don't have offices anymore. This production building right here, they don't have offices anymore. They don't have a lot of room to do much of anything. And so they have to put in offices over there. And it's also potentially for construction of the rest of this mega bay. But again, it could be just for SpaceX purposes only. That's why they're in the parking lot, because it would be SpaceX employees only, because that's what you have for parking passes and everything else, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, and I'm thinking about, like, as far as how when they construct this, they may want to actually do for real, like, all of this at one time, because that way they don't have to throw up the walls on the edge of it, and they can actually build it all the way through instead of doing what they did on this one.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to say the least. They'll be building at least on this right-hand side. The left-hand side is going to be really, really interesting, because the original diagrams, or not diagrams, artist renditions that SpaceX released shows this is where they'll do the ring. The nose cones is on the very far left-hand side. And yeah, so that would have been normally where tent 1 is at, but now it's where the GSE building is going to be probably at. And then it moves over to the other side where tent 1 is at, after they tear down the tents over there and build this new Star Factory on that side.
Wow. Yeah, this is going to be incredible.
Yeah, still that little nail house. That's what you call it. There's actually no house there, but in China they have these houses that just literally in the middle of the road. This is that parcel right now, and they've cleared off the rest of the parcels that were holdouts for a long time. So they'll get that one too. It'll be either a lease, so it's like it's good money for each year. You get money for just owning that piece of land. That's a pretty lucrative option. It goes for like 100 years. So that would be pretty nice.
Hopefully we see some work on that here soon. Anything else we want to touch on at the Star Factory?
It's the Star Factory. Bigger than Roberts Road. Even the designs planned on that one, even with the extension. So we're going to have to keep an awfully close eye on this one. But for now, it's cleaning up pretty nice.
In my opinion, once this is complete and once the other Mega Bay is complete, then we should start seeing work on the second launch tower here.
Oh yeah, they're going to need it. And the fun part is, for production reasons, this is going to be the production site. So until they've done this one and have the capability of basically prototyping Roberts Road, it's going to be built up and they'll eventually start to be able to build stuff. But it's not going to be the Star Factory. It's going to be a Star Factory. And that one's just going to be producing some ships over for Florida's reasons. But for now, they're going to be shipping those over from here. That's the direction it's going. It's a lot cheaper to build a factory here, do all the buildup and process of prototyping design of the factory, of the machining, all of the tooling necessary. You just replicate it eventually over to Roberts Road. Smaller footprint because you're not prototyping. And you're going to be still pumping these things out like crazy. They need to do about 3 ships, or a ship every 3 days. So that's 120 to 121 ships a year. And that's that whole Mars thing. It's the direction that they have to go in order to make this work. And then remember, this is going to be funded by Starlink, which is also going to require Starship as well to maintain that fleet of satellites and upgrade them and be really cheap.
All right, let's move over to I guess the I don't think there's anything really new.
Yeah,
in
there's new. Just
there.
the back end, go down to the mudflats. That's the only thing I want to show is if you go zoom out and then to the mudflats themselves at the bottom of the image. This is actually a better one on the right hand side. No, to the right hand side, very far right hand side of the image. There we go. They're building the road all the way through over to San Martin. So yeah, that's the road that will allow them access to these little parcels that they own. And then there's I think it's actually John Street is that first road, and then this second one they don't have all the way through, but it's probably going to happen eventually anyways.
Street.
Yeah, that's like John Street. That's the paper name for the road.
Yeah, they're making lots of progress back here. It looks nice. I like the little village.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. They've been cleaning up otherwise at the tracking station. Not much else going on with the integrations buildings. Yeah, so they've just been cleaning up. Remember that old booster puck?
Rex puck is gone.
It's gone. Yeah, they scrapped it over at Sanchez.
Oh man.
Go to the far right of this image, or far left, I mean, of this image. At the top now is where you want to go along Highway 4. You can see they've got a trench going all the way. This is the power distribution we talked about for Magic Valley. It's going all the way up through to the launch site, past labs cameras. And they've just been pulling direct burial wire through here. So they're not pulling it through conduit or anything like that. They might go through with concrete afterwards. But these guys seem to be doing a pretty good job. So when they pulled up the soil around Labs Tower, he's got a driveway, and him and his neighbor, large gravel rock, they pulled that all aside and put it in a pile. So when they're done, they can put it back. So Lab and his neighbor can get in there. So they're doing a great job. And these guys seem to be working directly for SpaceX because they're all over the SpaceX site. So basically they're running utilities for their from one side of the site to the other, but it's going to be for Magic Valley. That is the direct hookup at the substation at, again, Sanchez. Want to go to the launch site now? Because that's
for sure.
The
one thing I've been
stuff.
trying to figure out is like where this goes from here. Because I don't know if there's anything under here.
There is some stuff there, but it's also going down to the left. They've got not substation, but power distribution throughout the area. They've been slowly building it up. They even have it through a bunch of the houses. I'll give one thing. Maria has talked about this publicly many times, but her landlord has been having issues getting power to her house. So if they're hooking it up to power for all of these other buildings, they'll need to basically provide that to the residents that are the last few from ages past. Like most other people, it's like down to like 5 families now, if I remember right, that are the last people who live in Boca Chica. So most of the other people here are families with their SpaceX workers, being the ones coming through here. But it's still a village that's pretty small, but it's still growing. That's kind of interesting.
All right, let's do the launch site.
Do we have any questions or anything else, Indian Star?
Yep, we have donations and questions.
Okay.
Have a donation from Kenneth C., who donated $20 and says, "Excellent work on the images. Keep flying." Chris Lyons also donated $10. And then we have some questions for you all. A lot of them have to do with the last place we were at. So maybe I will hold off until we get to the all question part towards the end.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, let's continue with the suborbital site. So let's see.
Ship 25 sitting nice and tidy right there.
Yeah, we got static fire testing on the way for Ship 25, which is exciting. I'm kind of surprised that they're starting that now. I mean, just because of the fact that it requires a road closure and a shutdown of the launch site essentially, and with how much work they're doing at the actual launch pad, the orbital launch pad, I'm surprised that they want to even take the 8 hours that it's going to take to do this. But yeah, I mean, either way, that's really exciting that we're back to static fire testing with the Starship at least. So that's something good to look forward to. I don't know. We don't have any road closures this coming week, but I'm assuming that the week after we'll probably start to see them. I'm trying to get a better image of this, a better angle.
I'm probably thinking Friday would be at the soonest.
Right, that makes sense.
I mean, it's Mondays are the days that you have these things pop up anyways. They're supposed to do it at least a week in advance, but SpaceX will notify them like Friday, hey, we're doing this thing. There's nobody in the office, but they did their due diligence and notifying the county that they would like to close the road on a week prior.
Next weekend is a long weekend. It's Labor Day or Memorial Day.
That's one of those ones they can't do. So yeah, that might not happen on Friday then. It would be Monday or Thursday if they can squeeze it in.
It would be the following Tuesday because Monday's the actual holiday.
Oh, okay. So Friday might be able to be doable then. But yeah, they're per PEA. There's a bunch of requirements on holidays, and I don't remember all the details.
Yeah, you're going to be closing the beach, the road to the beach, and I don't think that they'll allow that.
Very interesting. So next week then?
Probably.
Cool. Well, we'll be on the lookout for those road closures. In the meantime, so the other thing that we have going on over here, it looks like they finally resurfaced the aerial work platform, or BART we call it. I don't know if we can say the acronym on here. I don't think we can. But nah. But yeah, it's weird. It looks like these are completely different panels than what they had on there before. Maybe I have a better side view.
Like half of them look almost like they could be the originals. The other half, no. they're black and like reflective stripes. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at this a little closer because I could have sworn that this was originally one solid plate, but maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, it looks like multiple individual plates, and they still need, looks like one plate on each end still.
Right. Actually,
those are the lift points, aren't they?
Yeah, those are the lift points, yeah.
I thought the lift points, they had a hole going through it, but I can't recall now which way it was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm pretty positive they were on the ends right here.
Yeah, those are the lift points. I just can't remember if they're plated over partially or not.
I'm gonna have to recheck on this before they stripped it down.
Lots of pipe work for Test Stand A. It's becoming another static fire station.
Yeah, I mean, if we look at this from the ground really quick, that's not the ground. So looking at this from the ground, they actually have removed a lot of the flex hoses from the test stand for some reason. I mean, the test stand looked like it sustained some sort of damage during the launch, so
even then,
makes sense.
It needed upgrades. So they upgraded Pad B ages ago.
Where is it?
Pad A, it really needed those upgrades. I think if it's towards the end, if I recall correctly. Oh, there we go. That's it.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Oh yeah, because all that big framework that comes around here.
Yeah, there's so much different on Test Stand B than what they've got here. So they need to do all the upgrades. They've got the panels out, which is cool. So they've got the work platforms. They're basically 5 of them because one of it's usually a hexagon, but one of those is used up by the old quick disconnect that they no longer use. Yeah, the quick disconnect used to be below this. Now it's above it. And actually, it's not a quick disconnect. It's a slow connect.
Yeah. And sorry, 1 second. I'm just checking on something here.
Well, it looks like it needs a little bit of a paint job as well while you're checking out some other things.
Yeah, sorry. I actually just wanted to retweet Mauricio's tweet because, everybody likes the launch site discussions. So, um, yeah, let me get back into the aerial view. So, yeah, we have a bunch of cryotubes under construction down here, and I don't know. I feel like these aren't for, like, some of this is for suborbital, but I think a lot of it is actually for the orbital pad as well, because they ripped out the cryotubes at the bottom of the launch mount. So, obviously, they're going to want to replace those once they're finished with that work down there. So, I think they're getting all of that fabrication work done ahead of time.
Yeah, unless we got something else going on with the suborbital, those big pipes don't go here.
Yeah. So that's exciting. Having that work done ahead of time is going to be good. So it should have everything move relatively quickly once they get the groundwork done. But yeah, other than that, at the suborbital site, I'm not sure if we have too much else going on other than, they're still working on repairing this building. I haven't really seen too much progress here.
I don't know if they know what they're going to do with this building, if they're going to patch the holes in the roof or redo the building. It's probably up in the air, just like the concrete was.
Yeah, I mean, so they did remove one of the buildings, right? So let me get on this view. So the one that was next to Starhopper, I think this was their break room, right?
No, there's their bathrooms.
The bathrooms.
I mean, it's a type of break room, but
yeah.
And then the one right next to it was a shipping container. That one was special because it was for Hoppy's pumps to the landing pad. Obviously, there's no landing pad anymore. They don't really need it, but it did control Hoppy's light, so it's going to be a while since for Hoppy to light up and show its coolness until they fix that.
That's a shame. But yeah, other than that, I don't think there's much else going on at the suborbital side. But definitely something to keep our eyes on, everything that's going on down here.
Yeah,
And
go to the bottom or the left a little bit more.
Mhm.
Just to recap here, a lot of the U channel stuff where your mouse is at, it's gone, except for those like 4. But there's a bunch of other ones that were over in this area that are moved down to the left. So they made a little bit of a jog. You've got actually zoom into that. I think those are geofabric or geotextile. Or are those pipes? I can't tell.
These are pipes.
The geotextile is on the right, though, which is interesting. So they've got stuff to help stabilize soil. That's what the geotextile is. Geofabric is the wrong term. I was looking it up earlier. There's a bunch more over to the left, but they're planning on some big moves with that. It means that they're still looking at some land to occupy with stabilized soil, basically.
And we haven't seen at all what they're going to do with these, so that's interesting. There's like another major project that hasn't even started down here.
Yeah, but the coolest thing is that these you dig a trench, you level it out a little bit, say, what your depth is, you stick them together like Lego blocks, because that's what they basically are. And it's just end to end, and it's all pre-done conduit. So each one of those is like, about a dozen or so conduits that you have all connected directly from one to the next, and there's what was it, about 1.8 miles worth? It's not that much.
I honestly thought that these were going to go along Route 4, but
no,
not going to happen.
It's just for a short jog. So let's say if they do suborbital pad C, easily enough, those will be able to do it, and you drop it in, you can drive over it within minutes, because that's how they're built.
Interesting. Yeah, keep our eyes on that. Still no progress with it.
Yeah, we've got the black missing tanks. Let's go show what's going on over there, if you want. So the compressed gas cylinders that are missing in that location, they're now basically down right here underneath your mouse. Woohoo!
Yeah, so they threw these on a bunch of racks, which are now make them look almost identical to the white ones over here. They're just a little bit larger. But yeah, so in total they have 76 of these. And yeah, they've got all these mounted this week. That was actually pretty fast getting all those up there. Honestly, it looked like there was way more of them when they were on the ground. Now that they're stacked up, it doesn't really look like that many, but there's definitely a massive amount of them here.
And there's still more. So if you zoom out oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm looking at I was thinking about the other day. There was still quite a few. Now they're all there.
Yeah, let's show it from the ground. They have this really, they got all the supports on it right now too. Why did this go all the way back to the beginning of the thumbnail list? That makes no sense.
Yeah, that's not a good setup.
No.
So you probably next time go to the right another image, and it'll probably fix that.
Yeah.
But yeah, those racks are what they're called. They're actually kind of impressive that they were able to find them so quickly. I've been looking around for specifically those, and I never could find them. And then there they are. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I never really saw these laying around, but I'm guessing they probably just got them delivered this week. It will be interesting to see how all of this is, all the plumbing looks after they're finished with that.
I've looked at 16 companies trying to find the manufacturer of these specific ones, because I'm trying to find like what the actual pressure rating is, because we're guessing, but the closest that we can find for similar cylinders is about 300 bar, or that 4,300 psi. So there's a lot of pressure in those tanks, but we don't know the exact rating that these ones will have.
Yeah, so I'm guessing we'll see the rest of these lifted up sometime this week. But the interesting thing over here is these pipes that I think they're just working on them. I obviously don't think these are going to be their final location at all. But yeah, they've got a ton of pipe down here mixed in. Some of this is casing for the auger. Sorry, what's the correct term for them?
Piles.
Yeah,
they're caissons, but they're piles. These are the top part for the caissons that they protect it from collapsing in at the very top section, because everything else below then is highly more compressed. You're not going to be dealing with a lot of collapse down there. So you basically drive these ones in at the top surface to help prevent any of the, as I said, collapse of the soil. That's what we were talking about with Phil Kid. He was talking about this, and it's really interesting stuff. So this is all going toward, those are going to the OLM. Those are 6 foot in diameter for the larger ones. So when we get over there, you can kind of get a perspective of how large these things are. And I don't think those ones are actually the 6 foot ones now I'm looking at it, but the ones that are the larger ones at the OLM.
Mm-hmm.
But what's kind of neat, before we get that direction, we can see that there is plenty of basically the frac tanks. So the white ones to the left were for water. And now you've got a gray one over there. I think that's the water right now, but they've got the yellow and the red ones for mud. So they go through and use that to help fill in the cavity that they're basically making. So now you've got a system that you can basically put mud that will be useful to prevent, like well, let's say put concrete down and the mud floats out and you pull it up, so that you don't have things collapsing yet again. That's a really useful system. Up there to the left, we've got the elevator. It's all gone, including the elevator itself. Yeah, it's just sitting there.
Interesting. I'm thinking, it doesn't really make sense to replace it with the same kind of elevator, a construction elevator, since that is what its original purpose was for. So I'm guessing we may see a different kind of elevator when they replace this.
Yeah, but it should have never had the accident that it did. So this was on the 16th, the night before we were having our first test flight opportunity, and it just turned into a wet dress rehearsal. But that was pretty something. Sparks flying everywhere as the counterweight basically broke loose with a cable behind. However, those stair pieces we were talking about before looks like they're these ones. So the ones next to Mega Bay. But these one, I don't see the actual stair steps, which is interesting. So that's that lattice structure. Yeah. If you zoom in on that.
I'm really curious where this is going to go.
I was thinking this would go, let's say, on the side of the integration tower. I mean, you're removing the only transportation besides a ladder. This would be a lot better than a ladder. It's just a lot of walking.
Right. Yeah, because without the elevator, they can't even access these other 2 floors. I don't think I bet you there's some stairs in here, but I mean, they're not gonna be able to get this in the building though.
Oh,
So
they'll be on the side. That's the thing.
what side?
The side we're looking at right now on the left,
Like right in the
probably.
corner?
No. I'm saying like not in the corner, but on the left-hand side of the integration tower in the back.
Really?
That's the kind of the direction I'm thinking it might be headed if it gets stacked there.
I feel like it would get destroyed.
It's out of the blast zone, so it's not going to be destroyed. The one other hint is that gray pad right there that we're kind of looking at.
Which one?
That just big gray blob in the middle of the screen, the dirt.
This?
Yeah, the Marvin's sitting right on it. So it's centered to be able to access this area. So that's why I think that it's for the stairs. Like that's kind of my thinking. But the weird problem again, I don't see actual stairs. I just see some weird looking landing parts and maybe what could be parts of the other stairs. It's just odd.
Yeah. I can't really think of anywhere else where it would go, but um yeah, I guess we'll have to probably see more of that next week. Um I just have a hard time believing it's gonna be on the outside of the tower. It'd be really weird.
It would look very strange. It's just the only theory of where those can go at this point. Because unless you're sticking it on the back of the orbital launch mount, and yeah, that'll get really toasty pretty quick. Yeah, let's talk about the new pads, new tanks coming in.
Yeah, so this is a rather large pad we got going on here. I mean, it's definitely larger than. Let's get a side view of it, actually, or a frontal view. One where I can see the other tanks as well. I may have to go to a different long distance image that shows the whole pad. Give me 1 second.
But yeah, it's interesting that they've got the auger right there, that blue auger, in order to looks like dig down into the pad itself.
Yeah, this is interesting. So right now, this is a bit wider than the entire methane section, and I think for liquid nitrogen, but if they don't use any of these larger tanks, if they only use the smaller ones, then this should fit all the liquid nitrogen right here.
Well, it
Because
depends on how the size of the tanks, though. So if you have larger diameter tanks, you could do locks. A lot of people hate the idea of locks sitting next to methane, but I mean, the methane is out in the middle of the air, which is what, 17% oxygen. So it's already next to a very combustible source. If you mix them together with a bit of heat, so that's already not a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they are larger tanks, then you possibly could fit locks there. I mean, it's going to be very
Preferably, though,
interesting
nitrogen
either
would
way.
be better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they do this because, I mean, your fill stations are over here, and I guess it's not that difficult to just move your fill pipes so that they route this way instead of into your tank farm this way. But yeah, I mean, it completely eliminates where they fill methane at, so that's going to be interesting to see how they relocate that. But yeah, this is going to be pretty crazy. I mean, you see that they're pretty much maxed out on their space right here because they still have to be able to move boosters around this.
Could you just imagine that the tank farm just keeps extending over to the right? It's like, yeah, we're locked out from getting ships over to Pad B. We're gonna have to go around the long way.
It's going to look crazy when it's done.
Yeah.
I really liked the original tank farm before all of this, but yeah, I mean it's gonna look crazy. I really want to know what they're gonna do with this in here once they actually finish this part. You know.
Well, the tank farm right here is actually a brilliant and simple solution, but two problems occurred. One, the methane tanks are too close to everything else as far as you need a wall. in order to block things off. So it's like 6 feet too close to anything. And then the other side of it is that the tank shells themselves, especially on the other side, they're not thick enough. They can't take a hit.
Yeah. And that means they're going to have to extend this vertical wall all the way down too.
Yeah, that's not a huge issue. It just keeps extending the wall, and you lock into the first one, and that's what they did pretty much from the current barrier that they have.
Mm-hmm. Let me go back to that other image.
So one thing you were mentioning earlier is about the basically the boiler or kettle boilers, so the heat exchangers there. You don't really have too much of an issue as far as those go and their pumps, especially if you're doing nitrogen at the bottom section. And let's say LOX is going to be where the current tanks are at. That would be pretty awesome. The biggest issue though is like you lose a little bit of thermal mass just to transfer the LOX from this side to that side, just a little bit. But that's your cooling agent anyways. So you're throwing all that pretty much away to boil off methane and oxygen in large quantities. Or I'm sorry, not boil off, but super chill it. Bring it down to extreme cryogenic temperatures just to really get every ounce of propellant aboard.
What's going on with these?
Yeah, they've got scaffolding all over. It looks like it's just specifically for those 3 top ports. So something's going on with this methane tank that they wanted to access those 3.
These are just vents, right?
Yeah, they should be vents, but maybe that's where they're leaking from or something, because these are vacuum insulated cryogenic tanks. Elon referred to these as hot dogs. So yeah, there's some probable issue with the seal on those.
Well, hopefully everything's good with those. I'm sure they'll be able to fix them, whatever it is.
Got some glue and some gum, and you're done. But no, in all seriousness, it's probably just a minor leak issue. I think the launch itself may have just vibrated or kicked some debris up and hit those, or one of those, and they can't figure out which one it is until they figure out the issue of which one. But anyways, the really other cool part is we're kind of mentioning these heat exchangers. If you look at like HLS, or not HLS, the other rocket, SLS, they put those pretty much in the version of their integration tower. So that is built into the system because you want to get that as close as possible. That's why they're here, is to be as close as possible so you don't have a loss of thermal energy between the vehicles, the fuel farm and the vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason for the methane ones to move, but I wouldn't be surprised if the LOX ones have to get moved when they redo that part.
Well, it depends on how big the fuel farm is and the tanks themselves. So if you've got some nice big 9-meter diameter tanks that you can lay horizontally, at least for the volume of the internal fluids, just lay it horizontally, in this case, not vertically, you'd be able to fit all the LOX you need. Especially if the nitrogen tanks aren't here. It's just a question of water tanks. And yeah, those are a couple of new lines over there.
Which ones?
Those 2 along the ground left to your mouse. So they had similar pipes like that, but they had to replace those. Some problems happened with some concrete and some other things.
Oh, I thought these just go turn down into the ground.
No, I don't think they... Well, they zoom at the end. I don't think they capped into anything yet. It's really weird.
These look like the ones that were here before.
Yeah, they had some other ones here, but they had some problems with concrete, as I mentioned. Speaking of which, go up to the tanks.
Like the same as these ones over here.
Yeah, they're pretty much just like drainage lines or something. But go to the top of the bunker. Here is the craziest part. They pulled off the top tanks, and they're back exactly in the position they were before.
Yeah, I think they just inspected them.
Yeah.
And they realized there was nothing wrong with them and put them back up here. Well,
Concrete landed on them. They probably went through a pressure test. They held pressure. they're still good.
That's pretty crazy. I never noticed the top ones right here being different lengths than the ones on the bottom.
Yeah, I don't remember that either, but they're the same position as they were before.
Yeah, it's pretty odd. These almost look like they came from this stack, but I don't think they did. But I don't know if there's anything else at the tank farm for us to really talk about. So,
Oh, yes, there is. The lack of something, in fact. What are we missing right below your mouse?
oh yeah. So they removed all of the generators from the that used to be right here, and so they
Yep.
only have the one right here. It looks like they're about to remove that too.
Yeah, it's been rotated out of position. Normally, it's nice and lined up with that 90-degree corner. But hey, this is the Magic Valley co-op power lines coming in to, again, Sanchez running all the way down here. Things are changing. So instead of power being done by themselves, they will be done by Magic Valley. I still hope they keep some backup power generation just in case. There's all sorts of power grid issues with the Brownsville area, especially closer to like South Padre Island. But that would be a good thing to have, especially on a launch site for critical infrastructure. Is like you want to maintain control of your systems. You need a generator to do that. You might not be able to use your pumps, but at least you'd be able to utilize it for your system to make sure everything's in control.
Yeah, that's good to see. I mean, the tank farm is already inoperable, but that makes it so that I'm pretty sure the tank farm's relatively dead right now. It still has the three-phase power from the original three-phase power, but I think that it's pretty much dead without having those in here. But they don't really need it because this is not really going to be used until the launch mount construction is complete. So, yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of power coming in. It was, as far as I remember, the distribution in here was measured in like the hundreds of kilowatts of power. So not even the megawatts that we need.
Wow.
So yeah, now we're getting the megawatts we need. We got some nice rebar just right up there. I've measured those out to be about 110 feet using my nice shipping container rulers because those are perfect for measuring everything.
Yeah, these are longer than the ones that were used for the actual legs of the launch mount, which is very interesting.
I counted those about 140 feet. So these are actually just shorter of those ones, at least the ones I measured.
Sure.
Yeah.
I measured them at 100 feet when we checked them last a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I've got so many visual images from Mauricio. I went through and actually had to check back. We were talking about this. What was it? Basically, when we started building the orbital launch mount and wondering about the caissons, how deep they were going, we pulled the pictures up then, and I couldn't remember the number recently, but it was about 140 feet. This is something you measured.
Now I want to pull this up really quick. I'm going to search for it here and see if I can find it.
Yeah, this is going to be the old, like you're going to have SN3. That's just the aft section sitting there. Not the aft section. It's going to be the aft dome, right? Those are the days.
Let's see here. I think I got a good image of it. I used it in my most recent episode, so okay, here we go. All right. So, I don't know. This is a 9-meter tank.
Yep, and that's not the full. That's not the full caissons either.
Oh, really? These
are just the shorter end of what the rest of it's going to be.
Oh, so they weren't finished constructing them?
Nope.
How did you ever see what they looked like at the end?
Because we've got other images of the caissons themselves, and I've looked at all the flyover images as well as the ground shots, not from Mauricio at the time, but other photographers, and we're getting about the 140 foot mark. And the deluge pipes that could have been.
Never happened.
I know, just bugs me every time. And they even went through, and if you look at the edges of those, they went through and redid them because they were going to bury them, connecting them together in some sort of ring fashion, like we were expecting, like what they did at 39A. And it just didn't happen. Oh, but
That's
yeah,
crazy.
it's funny is that the same frac tank systems are pretty much here now too.
Mhm.
So they've got mud, everything. It's almost identical, uh, but it's beautiful.
Oops, sorry. Let me get back to that other image. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I have. Maybe you could send me those pictures. I would love to see the full versions of them. Um, but yeah, I mean, so we got what 4 of them completed right here, and they don't seem to have as much rebar laying down there as they used to. So I don't know if these are the final 4.
And those are the smaller ones, I think. So you've got 2 diameters. So if you look at there's one of the really cool ones from above that Mauricio has. You can see the 2 different sizes of.
Oh, let me.
Yeah, that one's like he nailed it down to like almost the inch. There it is, right there, just to the right. 3 more photos. 2 more photos. 1 more photo. There it is.
Wait, I thought
Look
we were
at
looking
that.
at.
I
Hold
know
on.
we're just looking at the diameters of the things. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Wait, but these are all the same diameter.
Yeah, those are the smaller ones, I think.
The smaller ones? Where's the bigger ones?
So you've got ones that are about 6 feet in diameter. So you have to look at the caisson holes themselves, unless they're concrete as they're doing concrete yeah. So you've got those different size holes. So you've got these ones, and then you've got some I believe some smaller ones up above. You have to kind of look around. There's so many in there that are just at the edge. Like you have one to the
Yeah, you can't
right.
really see them from this angle.
Yeah, you can see there's one right there. They're just hidden in the shadows, but there's so many in there. I think there was it at the top. Oh no, there's one right at the top of your mouse, but it's got concrete.
I can see them a little bit better from one of the other.
Yeah, it was just off angle. It's a little bit better. But yeah, Mauricio just nailed it.
And that's not even a great one to look at it from. Let's see. Kind of want the side profile. And maybe not this side because you can't really see any on this side. But one interesting thing about this is, so they do have all of these caissons on 4 of the sides. So 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. But these 2 sides do not have them. And one thing that they've been doing on this side is putting in sheet pilings. So similar to the ones that were used in the press pit near the Star Factory, or I guess it's part of the Star Factory. So these are laying right over here. Sheet pilings right there. So they're basically they interlock with each other, and they basically get vibrated down into the ground. And Mauricio has some really good ground shots showing this as well too. So. Oh, you were saying go to one left and see if that fixes it. Yeah, nice. That worked, Thomas. Is it? Nope. You can see it in the corner of this image, but this might be the best one. Yeah, so there we go. We have this crane lifting one of them into position right here, right now. And it's really hard to figure out exactly where these are. But essentially it's building a wall, an underground wall, but not sure of the purpose of why yet. So looking at it again from above, like we really can't even see like where these are going to go. Like there's no, oops, I'm lost in space. And I probably want to get back to the other side. So there's somewhere down in this area, but we don't know where.
Where that machine's at is kind of interesting. Is it a red hitter puncher thing or whatever? I can't remember what those are called.
The vibro hammer.
The vibro hammer, yeah. I saw one that was pictured as red, but I don't know if it was the picture or just somebody here's an example of one. Is that it though? Do you know Indian Star?
Where?
That piece to the left though, I think it might be a yellow one. Or is that just the? No. I'm not sure which one it is.
Generator.
Are you talking about the actual vibro hammer? Because this is
I
it
was
right
asking.
Here.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
so
this is it right here.
Red one.
Yeah, and this is the machine that they use to supply the power for it.
So that's be the hydraulic pump.
Yeah, I did have a good video of it, but I think actually maybe Starship Gazer posted it. But yeah, they've started that, and we haven't seen them drill any piles on this side, which is interesting. Not sure if that is just because of the fact that these cryo tubes are going to go over here, or if they're just still waiting to actually start that.
Well, if they're driving piles here, it's probably for soil stabilization. And you can actually see they're finding pipes right there to the left.
Yeah, these are the water pipes.
Yeah, there's the green ones that are on the outside perimeter. They want to make sure they're not putting piles into it because the pipes win.
Yeah, this is pretty crazy, the amount of work that they have done and still have to do.
Well, this thing's going to be beefy after they're done. One thing that people haven't done as far as the artist's rendition version of this is the pile cap, which is the piece that is rebar and concrete that is going to be around this entire thing. It's going to look like what the Mega Bay did. So remember how thick the rebar is? It's so thick that you can walk on it. Like, you're not going to fall through the rebar at any point because it's so thick. That's going to be what we're looking at. And it's going to be covering all of the inside of the orbital launch mount and the outside.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty intense job that they got to do there. And I mean, we don't know. I don't know if we know how many they've finished on the inside. I haven't counted. But from different angles, we can kind of see the ones that are in there. So there's one right here. Let's see if I can rotate us around it. Tough to see from that angle.
But yeah, you've got tons of, like, you even have 3 of them just covered up. And then the weirdest one is the very bottom one that's on the outside of the leg. So if you go down a little bit, you've got 3 holes right there, but they're covered up with those squares. And look at how far away that bottom one is. It's like, what the heck is it doing over there? Are they going to do it the rest of the ones or around here as well? Are they going to go out that far? That's weird.
Well, right now they have, I need a better angle. Just looking at inventory, what they got laying out around here. This will probably show it. So there's 3 more casings right here. I don't think these are casings. I think those are water pipes.
Yeah.
And
those casings might be for this side right over here below. So if you go down a little bit, this area, they had those caissons. Oh, there's a bunch. Yeah.
Yeah. So they got a ton of them laying out here. And I think all of these big ones are for the outside.
And these ones could actually be for this area right here. So you see the blue machine that's aimed down right now?
Yeah.
That might be for those caissons. So 2 different groups. They did share, or it looked like it appeared they shared one thing. I can't remember what it is now. But yeah, I think those are going to be for here, not for the other side. So they might be reusing the caissons for the orbital launch mount legs. So as they're pouring concrete, they pull up the caissons. So when the concrete has started curing but hasn't cured yet, they'll pull up the caissons and then they can go ahead and use it on the next one.
Is that actually a thing?
Yeah.
They really do that?
Yeah.
It's hard to get off of there.
Well, you just pull it up. Pulling it up is actually fairly easily compared to pushing it down. Because pushing it down, you got a lot of resistance. Pulling it up, you've got resistance, but not nearly as much.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be. I have a feeling that they have a lot more to do on the outside here, especially just with the randomness of where these 2 are placed at.
I like my patterns, and I'm hoping they continue the pattern. But one thing that's really interesting, you can see it on this view, the excavator, it's removed the concrete compression ring. Remember the images that showed the rebar being exposed? Oh, it's all exposed now. So they're going through and removing all of the concrete there, and then they're probably going to tie into the rebar that's existing, including the area that was broken. Because it's still probably good rebar to at least tie into. You basically rotate it around and connect rebar together, or weld it. Either way, you could still have the compression ring, but it's going to be part of a massive structure.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty impressive. I mean, it's almost like it's it's really weird how large it's going to be. And I wasn't 100% sure if that was the compression ring right there that they demolished, because it doesn't look low enough down, but that probably is what it is.
Yeah, there's nothing left of it. I can see that there's like plastic jersey barriers to the left and right. But they kind of look like concrete, but they're not. They're just plastic. But yeah, you can see there's just concrete in a weird area where it shouldn't be, or at least blocks of it, because they already removed all of the previous concrete remnants in this area. This is new, and it's got a jackhammer attachment. It looks like on this one, if I'm seeing that right, or
Yeah,
it
I
could be
wonder
the
if it
bucket. I can't really
busted
tell.
out the one over here too, because I see this like pile of rubble over here.
Yeah,
That's like
and
really
there's a
fine
pile
rubble.
above it, just to the right, up at the top as well. Or it could be even well, the top one could be just rock. They came in and poured in some of that last week.
Right.
But regardless, this is going to be a massive structure. The steel cooled plates, I wonder how far they'll extend out as well. Maybe not going to be water cooled on the outside, but just steel plates that are tied into the rest of everything else and anchored down. It's like, that would be nice. You basically save your concrete surface from erosion, at least quicker the erosion than the steel plates will take it. I mean, Elon said it was like an inch per, what was it, second or something for like a blowtorch or something. I can't remember his exact words, but he was referencing a blowtorch, and that the rock is like the world's largest blowtorch. It's not quite the same, but the principle is similar.
Yeah. And we are getting we're over on time, but we're gonna go a little bit longer because there's a few more things to talk about. But with that being said, if you guys can do us a favor, if you joined halfway through the show, do us a favor and hit that like button. It'd be really awesome if we could, I don't know, reach 800 or so on the likes. We'd really appreciate all of you. And we're not going to go too long because we do know that there's the Axiom space coverage that's going to be starting here, or I think it already did start, but yeah, I don't want to go too far over for that reason. So yeah, I guess one more thing to mention here, I'm sure there's others as well, that the Raptor QDs, they did start lifting those back in. The clamps are still removed, as you can see.
Yeah, they need new whole clamp systems, apparently.
Yeah, I think that it has to do with possibly the new skirt design for the booster. So they may, well, actually, that wouldn't make sense because they would probably need to replace all the ones on the transport stands as well, too.
Well, it could be just the clamp thickness is different for these, because these are going to be hydraulically actuated versus bolts that you bolt down. You have large bolts. They can be sizable, of course. So you have some variation, where these, it's a little bit more specific on the size. So if you have a thicker ring, that would interfere if that's what's going on.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, going to be interesting. Hopefully we'll get a good side view of them when they bring these out. It'll kind of tell us a little bit about Booster 9 when we see them. Not much, but at least give us an idea of what kind of changes they made. But one thing you can also see here is that some of the clamps are retracted in, and that is most likely so that they could access these areas in between them so that they could drill these holes. So yeah, that's it's good that they're able to selectively retract those, although I'm not sure if it mattered if they did all of them at the same time. But I mean, one reason they wouldn't want to retract all of them is because they're still working on these QDs. And it's really interesting. I think they got some red covers on them that weren't visible when they were lifting them in place.
Do you think they're protecting the
Probably
attachments?
with the amount of dust and stuff that's going on down here, they're probably just covering them up. Yeah.
Okay, so what's the part that I'm looking at that's... Oh, I'm sorry, that is the QD arm. I couldn't recognize the rust on a couple of them.
Yeah. And in other news, they also removed the ship QD this morning. Really no idea why they did that. It may just be for inspection purposes. But yeah, I mean, as far as what we could tell during the launch, it seemed like it performed as expected. And you know, if it moved out of the way in time, then I couldn't really see how it would get damaged. But yeah, I mean, as far as we know, there are no changes to Ship 25 or 26, 27, any of those as far as the actual QD design goes. So it's a bit odd that they removed that, but again, not something that'll be used for quite a while. So inspecting it on the ground versus in the air makes a lot of sense, especially since they do not have elevators to get up to this level anymore. So yeah, it almost probably is easier to inspect it from the ground at that point.
This is going to be incredible. So Elon's time frame was
Wrong.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still closer, I think, than we are in some sense. I was like saying 6 to 8 months, and we might still hit that if we get delay after delay for whatever reasons. But still, things are actually going a lot quicker than we would normally expect. So that's good news.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely moving fast. I mean, there's a ton more work left to do, especially on with the actual steel plates themselves. Like they got to actually finish constructing those, and then installing them will be a whole nother different job because they got to weld all of them in place once they get here, and connect all those pipes and whatnot. So yeah, it's gonna be fun to continue to watch this as it develops. Oh, and then they got to fix the rerun the cryo pipes once that's all finished as well too.
And that's just a nice short jog, anyways. It's not a big issue.
Yeah, very very true.
I was actually hoping they would pull them back a bit further. I mean, they're already redoing that much. Might as well do another 20 feet or less, because if you can run the water lines all the way through. Yeah, those are the pin system attach points that go through from one side to the other. They're changing out the pin system for the boosters because the boosters are changing. So boosters 9 and above, they don't have a piece sticking out that they can clamp into or pin into, really, to guide the booster down. And that's the HPU unit that was on booster 7 that the rest of those do not have, which is good news for multiple reasons. And this one is a change. So if you go up to the opposite side, you can pretty much see the same thing. Actually, you see another one next to it. That actually is really unusual. So
what do you mean?
You can see the hole on this side and where the pin system would be, but then there's another piece that looks like a hole. I'm not expecting that one.
Yeah, that's really odd.
The first one is normal, but that second one, I either have seen something else or there's another hole there, and I'm not expecting that.
Obviously, probably for the hydraulics to go through, and then they'll probably put a special cap over it so that it. I really wonder how they're going to be able to protect this so that they can use it multiple times without having to remove it every launch.
Yeah, they just need it automated and like do the doghouse thing or something, and maybe it sticks up straight so that people can walk past it, and that's all fine.
Yeah, that'll be probably one of the last things we see, maybe. But I mean, they're working on it now, so maybe it's not that far off. We'll see.
I'll keep our eyes out for some interesting parts. Okay, do we have questions that we'd like to go over, and any donations while we still can? Because now's the time to do it.
We have a couple of donations. We have a donation from Chris Lyons for $5. He says, "You all rock." We also have a donation from Sharpie for $10, and then Chris Lyons again for $10. And then Chris Lyons donated 2 memberships. One went to Moody Blues.
Oh, wow.
One went to 10 of 9. And then we have questions.
Thank you, Chris, for sure. And also Sharpie. That's huge. What are the questions?
There's one from Julian asking, can they stack hot dog tanks on top of each other?
You'd have to have some very interesting pads that I've never seen before. I mean, theoretically, you can do anything. Physics says you can. I just don't know like why you would. You just get bigger tanks. The diameter is what matters.
Fair enough. Elon John asks, when are more CH4 hippos being added?
Hopefully soon, but we don't know. We have at least 2 hippos. One could be for the LOX side, one could be the methane side, but they have multiple openings on both. So you can install 2 more on the methane side. What was it? 4 more on the LOX side. So we've got plenty of room and only 2 hippos to share. So the reason you would actually use those hippos is because you can do loading times a lot quicker. So if you're engineering your system to be 1 hour turnaround times, you need the hippos. They're pretty close to what they are for the goals, so you don't need as many hippos maybe. But yeah, that's the general direction that they would need to go.
There's a question up from Moody Blues, and they're wondering how many times do you think that they'll test the deluge with static fires before they actually do a launch?
I'm hoping many times. So more than once, I would hope that they would do a static fire of long duration, also one of high number of engines, short duration, with at least the maximum allowable thrust. So basically, a static fire with an abort, or a launch with an abort, and the hold down clamps would have to be engaged fully that entire time. That way to really understand what you're doing to the plates before you actually do a launch. But then if you're already doing damage, you might as well launch. That's a that's a problem in itself. But I would hope that they could do at least a few engines at long duration.
Virus asks, do we know how hot the Raptor flame gets and when the steel would melt or be too soft?
Was it like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit for some of the stainless steels? Or was it that the methane side? I've looked at this up before and I just don't remember the numbers now. But typically your methane side is not going to melt stainless steel, but there's a lot of energy here, gigawatts of energy. So yeah, you could melt it because you're using LOX as your oxidizer, or basically oxygen directly, and you're using methane. So things are getting really hot, and very concentrated. So yeah, 1.21 gigawatts. I can't remember the exact number. Elon said it at one point, but it's a lot of energy that you're having to dissipate.
Yeah. Just also want to say we have a couple of donations coming in. Stephen Coates donated $1.99 and says, cheers, rocket friends. Tennille's Weather Marine Space Station donated a gift membership, and that went to Lando Bot. Congratulations, Lando Bot. And Brian Runner just donated $1. And we have another question. F14 is asking, how heavy is one section of Mega Bay? How much downwash could the building handle?
Mega Bay. Oh, because the landing pads. Oh, yes, those are fun. So they've got 2 landings in front of Mega Bay, but their landing pads is in landing for like boosters, like in a shipyard, like the top of stairs, the top of the stair landing, not for actual landing of the boosters. I think they're rated for a Category 3 hurricane. These would be Category 3. These would be, who knows? The destruction that these could bring upon a single building as they land would be very interesting. You'd be finding stuff from Mega Bay all the way probably to Sanchez, or the very ends of Sanchez easily enough, because it would just yeet it right out of there.
And then Senti's asking about from Massey's, the tanks at Massey's. He's wondering, is there enough capacity to fill a booster?
I'm not so sure about that. The hard problem with a lot of these cryogenic tanks is you don't have the capacities. We don't have a lot of labels on these. So you have to figure out what their actual insulative property is. Is it a vacuum insulated tank, or is it perlite or foam glass? That's a pretty popular one as well. And the amount of thickness you have for those materials is also dependent, like how much volume. So you have a thickness on the outside you can measure, but you can't measure the inside. You can say it's less than this. I haven't done the measurements on it because, well, it's going to be very difficult to figure out the inside measurements. But based on the outside measurements, I don't even think we would have that for the full booster with what we have at Massey's. You would need a significant number of tanks in order to do full cryo tests of the boosters. there is plenty of room for those tanks to be occurring. So you have the nitrogen location. You've got going to be, let's say, 5 to 6 at least, and then the top section, there's a room for a bunch more up there. So at that point, you could go ahead and do all of your methane side and your lock side, but you'd have to get some beefier tanks for the lock side if you're going to fill it up fully. Otherwise, you just do partial cryos.
All right. You want some more questions?
Any other last ones that are good questions, or?
They're just questions. They're not good or bad. They're good questions. All questions are good in my opinion. We also just got a donation from ChemStatic for $9.99, and they say last minute support. Great work, guys. And then we also had a 5 gift donation from Rocket Profit. 5 lucky people received a membership to RGV. And we have a couple more questions. Gwen wants to know, will they ever build a wall to protect propellant tanks and lines from the adjacent tank tests? So again, at Massey's, I believe.
I mean, you could easily build a concrete wall, but unless you're not expecting the tanks to rupture, which could still happen, but you'd have to have it rupture, take off, and head in that direction to do damage. But I mean, at that point, we've seen plenty more occur. So your real answer is at that point, tie downs, really heavy tie downs. So for quick instance, SN1, or was it? Yeah, I think it was SN1. It had the top blow off. It went far across Highway 4, which is about 100 yards. Or no, I'm sorry, it's about 200 yards across the road. And yeah, there would be no wall tall enough or far enough to be able to take care of that. So you just really strap things down. Walls are good for containment for liquids if you're trying to prevent that. But at that point, just do 2 or 3 rows of HESCO barriers, not the small to large kind. You do the large to small kind, or just larges altogether.
Yeah, I think we're good for right now.
Awesome. And what is that truss structure at the back right? I can't tell. Is that
This over here?
Oh, okay. It's just the trailer.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was, yeah, I hadn't seen that image yet. A bunch of the ground images we didn't really go through yesterday. I saw like 5, and that was about it.
Yeah, we didn't have time to touch on most of the ground images, unfortunately, but those of you who are RGV patrons or YouTube members should have access to the full photo set. So if you guys would like to go through the ground images yourself, you can access them that way. Hopefully next week we'll be able to spend a little bit more time on ground images. There was a ton to cover from the air this week, though. But yeah, I guess on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. It was really awesome being back after, 2 weeks missing the show. So yeah, thank you all for the support. And I will pass it off to Thomas.
It's been great being here again today, and we've got some big news. We didn't talk about this earlier, but we should talk about it now. We have a second video coming out. So this is covering all of Starbase, the flyovers. It's I guess you could say, a shorter version of what we talked about here today. So be on the lookout for that. It'll be coming out here soon. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mauricio, if he's still listening in.
Yeah, I'm still here, but I don't know if I'm going to be potatoing because I'm on my mobile device.
We got you.
Do I sound good? All right. Yeah, well, I want to thank everybody I've been listening in, and it's been an interesting show. 2 flowers in a week. So there's definitely, like Zach said, there's a lot to cover from the air. So I've been looking at all the donations and all the support. It helps out tremendously on these flyovers. That's the only reason why we were able to do 2. And thanks everybody for joining us today. And yeah, be on the lookout for that video coming out possibly tomorrow morning. And I'll pass it along to an insert.
And I will end it by saying main engine cut off, stage separation confirmed. Love ya. Bye, guys. Have a good one.